Good evening, and welcome to episode 93 of the Westmarch Workshop. And this intro is about as long as our news is, because there really is none. And there you go. How'd you like it?
A plus.
There, A for effort,
A,
creativity.
A for succinct, to the point, clarity.
Yeah. So for those that are tuning in for this episode, of course, if you're here live, you already know the reasoning for it. But I completely forgot that it was my week to do an opening, so I was even less prepared than what I normally am when I already know that I have to do the opening and I don't have one.
It's about the equivalent to when your phone's at like 5% battery and you're kind of freaking out, and 1% battery and you're like, at that point, it's gonna die.
You know, I never have that because my phone does weird things. I've had my phone die on me at like 22%. Like it was saying 22% battery life, and then all of a sudden it was dead.
Do you have an
Like
iPhone?
I do.
Yeah, me too. Same issue.
Yep. I don't think that I've ever actually seen it go all the way down to the 1%. It's just like 7%. Oh, I'm fine. It's like I'm like 10 minutes from oh, never mind.
It just shut off.
Yep, it
You
is gone now.
you will just never be the 1% is the real problem here.
I'll never be the 1%. Dang, I thought we were friends. Man, have some faith.
You don't want to be them, man.
No, I don't actually.
Oh boy.
So, yes, here we are, episode 93. It's the mid-season blues. We're at that point of time in the season where, everything is just kind of, we're in a lull. We don't have the news for the next patch, next season coming out yet. People really aren't making their pushes. Everyone's just in farm mode. I need to get that last ancient. I need to get another level 80 gem to augment this. Or I just need, 1,000 more Paragon levels before I actually start making a push on the leaderboards. That type of thing.
Yep,
So,
yep, yep.
yeah, so here we are. And I guess we do have a couple of actual news items to talk about, unlike last week, if we want to. Well, I guess before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm so excited to talk about the news that I'm about to skip the weekend gaming.
Whoa.
As many people know, we did not have an episode last week, and if you didn't realize that, surprise, maybe is that a good surprise? No, I guess that's more of a bad surprise.
Bad surprise.
Yep. But so tell me, Leviathan, how has your past week in gaming been? 2 weeks in gaming, something like that.
2 weeks in gaming. So I mean, we should potentially also say that we are trying out right now the bi-weekly format.
Oh, yep, good point. Almost forgot about that. But
Yep.
yeah, we made the announcement on Twitter, but just we are kind of in like that slow news era. Steven's been busy. I've been super busy, and so we're kind of going to a every 2 weeks. We're gonna do every 2 weeks a new episode. So sorry you're not going to be going through and getting the weekly updates from the workshop, but we're still here, still going through, kicking and doing some stuff. So, uh, sorry for the little change in schedule, but
Hopefully, it means that each episode is still jam-packed, because
yep,
that's kind of what we're trying to avoid is throwing up something just for the sake of throwing it up. Still want the quality to be there too.
exactly.
All right. So with that janitorial stuff out of the way, the 2 weeks in gaming. So last time around, I was contemplating pushing a little bit higher on the DH, and I ran out of time before we were actually supposed to have that show, so it's kind of fortuitous that we didn't.
Hmm.
And then I want to say about a day or two after that, so we're talking like last week, Thursday at this point, Friday, I managed to push up to a GR 82 with the unhollowed essence setup on my Demon Hunter, and it was relatively easy. I only tried one key. The rift was pretty solid, like a nice even distribution of pylons along the way.
Hmm.
Mob types are solid. I didn't have to kite too much, and it just felt like everything kind of clicked into place. So I was thinking at that time, like, oh man, GR85 with a UE setup doesn't seem that bad. And, it does have its limitations, especially in hardcore. You can't just go fully DPS out the way that, some of the players do in softcore. So it's an interesting place to have been at. because I kind of had some aspirations for maybe I'll just keep trying to work this setup then because I was getting ready to transition over to Legacy of Nightmares, Fan of Knives. And I'm
Hmm.
using all these past tense verbs because it was Saturday of this past weekend where I was very ardently watching a Cloud9 League of Legends game, and it was so stupid to have lost character this way because, by the way, I died because it was a gank in the top lane, and I'm
Hmm.
using like MOBA terms, and maybe we've lost three-fourths of our people here, anyways. But just bear with me. There was a gank in
Don't
the
let me.
top lane. It amounted to no kills because the top laner just like walked back through the lane and then like, you know, hearthed home, and I'm sitting there watching, but it was the longest chase because they had killed one of the outer turrets, so there was still potential for there to be a catch and potential kill.
Hmm.
And like Cloud9 is my team, so like I am so invested in every single game. So whenever what I usually do when League is on is I'll do something that's really easy, like bounties or just a bunch of T10 riffs, and then when action comes up in the game, I'll pause and I'll watch the game. But
Hmm.
in this instance, I was fighting Urzael when this gank happened, and I had phased Urzael through his first phase to the second, but my brain registered that as Urzael dying, so I was like, I don't have to pause. I just can, let the death animation go through, and I'll watch this fight happen.
Hmm.
And I watch that fight, nothing happens. It's like 30 seconds. I turn back and I just see like the red flashing of the screen, and I'm just like my brain is just figuring out what's happening to the point where my finger is like going towards my potion button,
Yep.
and then it just says I'm dead. I was like, oh, okay.
Rip.
So that happened.
Rip.
I'm supposed to be an expert in this game, and I can't even keep a character alive standing still.
It can be challenging at sometimes. It really can.
Yep, yep. But what was the thing that was kind of the most telling for me was I didn't feel that bad about dying. I don't know if it was just because it was such an absurd way to die,
Hmm.
but I remember Monstrous sent me an email or sent me a tweet after I tweeted out that I had died, and he was like, "Oh man, I wish we could have had your reaction to that." And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't think it actually would have been like an interesting moment or video because I didn't really like jump up, I didn't scream, I didn't anything like,
Hmm.
past deaths I've been very invested in because I've been like there, super concentrated, usually in some GR or something. I'm like, oh my god, I got to stay alive. But
Hmm.
when you just turn back and you're dead, there's no real like, how do you like, how does that make sense? You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, like, it happened.
Yeah. No, that was kind of like the death that I had on my Demon Hunter, where it was just kind of like, oh, lag. Well, shit.
Right? Like, what else can
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah. It was just yeah. It's like, well, that happened. That's the
Hmm.
thing. That that right there.
That is a thing indeed.
Hmm.
And so this is the first time that I've died with a character that had serious investment in it since augments were added into the game. And so that does definitely make things feel weird in terms of wanting to get back into it, especially given what's happening with season 6 right now, like the takeover of the Wizards being fully just full fledged, I guess is the best way to put it.
Hmm.
It almost feels weird to then like say, okay, well, I'm going to re-roll a DH and I'm also going to like get all these augments back into it for the speed farm when you could just as easily get a really crappily geared wizard, bug it out, and
And do
be
better.
doing stuff faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It put me in a weird spot, and I think I kind of skipped around in my story, but I had also done some witch doctor stuff before that death,
Hmm.
and got in the Helltooth finally 6 pieces together, and enough of the ancillary items to clear GR75, and that was kind of competing within the clan for the top witch doctor hardcore spot.
Hmm.
And then I think it lit a fire under some of the other witch doctors, and they have all pushed higher since. But maybe I'm thinking after I'm definitely taking a break right now and just kind of being very casual about the game. But if I
Hmm.
do come back to season 6, I might just do witch doctor stuff instead.
Yep. And I mean to just completely go through and copy you. I actually just got my witch doctor to 70.
There it is.
Yeah, yeah. The witch doctor's always been a staple of mine as like that secondary go-to character. That was back when like I was playing the Crusader in what was that season 4 when they did
Sounds right.
the Seeker of Light set, and I just um, I had a witch doctor as my backup character, and then trying to go through and get higher in the seasonal journeys, It's just, well, it's like this sucks. I can't do anything as a Crusader with this current setup. I'm gonna have to go through and do a Witch Doctor, and so
Right.
like halfway through the season, switching to Witch Doctor because I always like go and put one off to the side to go and play with, and it's just like all the pet builds are like super beast right now, so I want to kind of relive a little bit of that Necromancer glory, and the pet builds have been calling to me.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. Hell, I haven't. Obviously, this is my like. I have the least amount of hours of any class on Witch Doctor, so I'm very kind of fresh to them. And it was a really refreshing playstyle to just kind of go through and figure out how to group all the mobs up properly, how to make sure that you're getting the most out of your gargantuans and things like that. So
Hmm.
it's definitely it's an invigorating way to play if you haven't experienced it yet at all. So I think you'll definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's I know it is something that I did enjoy. I played the Helltooth, when it was more focused just on the Wall of Death and the pets really didn't do anything.
Right.
So and I did enjoy that a lot. I didn't get to the chance to enjoy playing with other people because that's when all the lag issues were going on. It was like
That's right.
let's not play with the Witch Doctor. I'll go and do my own thing like solo. Now definitely not as bad, and it has me thinking, depending upon what we see, going into season 7, that I might go through and give Witch Doctor, a main Witch Doctor, start a Witch Doctor from the beginning. Also, just when it comes to like going through and doing group play, as the season goes on, I generally can't dedicate as much time to going and playing the game. So, playing a DPS class like before with the Crusader, or not so much that the Crusader was a DPS class like in season 4, but I was playing it as a DPS class and not as a
Hmm.
support. Maybe going through and doing something as a Witch Doctor and kind of just gearing up as support from the beginning. That way I don't feel as if I'm holding people back, like going and playing. Like if I were to hop on now and to go and run and do stuff with other people, since I haven't really put that much into re-gearing the Demon Hunter and oh god, re-leveling all of the gyms, um,
Yeah.
that I feel as if I'm a bit more of a drag. Whereas if I play like a support class, then my gear doesn't have to be like as good or as caught up. I could be 600 Paragon levels behind everybody else and still contribute a lot because it's more about what the buffs I bring to the table more so than my actual damage.
Especially as a witch doctor too. I don't know if it's just the combination of the clan and hardcore, but it seems like the least lacking support we've had all season, this season at least, has been witch doctor supports,
Hmm.
and maybe barbs and at the same amount. We've just had a ton of monks for whatever reason, just a lot of monks. So there's no shortage of monk supports, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's an interesting. So yeah, if you, I think that's Lala kind of goes through the same thing too, and I think in general it's just good to have someone who wants to play support early in a season because it gets you so much further than if everyone's just trying to get the most out of their DPS right away.
Yeah, so it's something I will definitely keep an eye on for season 7, which we should actually be getting close to getting some updates
Well,
as far as
Brandy,
season 7.
did you see Brandy when she returned to work? I think it was earlier this week. She teased us with a little photo. She said she was in a meeting and
Hmm.
she had written down some notes, and one of the notes was patch notes, and then a
Yep.
line under that, and then the next word was no.
No. Yep.
Oh, so troll.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no patch, is what I took from that.
Yeah,
Nothing.
that could be it. Even though season 6 was a very small patch, we could get a season with no patch.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah,
There are a couple of bugs. I think even if you think of, I mean, it could just be if you want to call it no patch, right? In quotes, it
it,
could just be a
it,
very small patch.
oh, we can copyright this one here, trademark this. It can be the no patch because it's just like bug fixes and no content update.
Oh, I like that. Okay,
Yeah,
there it
yeah.
is.
I doubt that they'll do that. I'm sure that will go through. There would at least be you know, I would at this point like to see them change the requirements for Guardian
Hmm.
because it was always one of those things. At least for me, it was I had never gotten it until this season, and I had always come up right to like the edge, the cusp of it. But then this season was just like done in a couple weeks. You know,
Yeah.
I would like to see them go back and kind of like retweak the seasonal journey and push it, even if you keep Conqueror in the stash tab where it is now, but then let just get crazy with Guardian. You know, go out there and just do something fun with that. Like Guardian require like a greater Rift 80 for softcore. That doesn't really mean too much. For hardcore, that means a lot.
Well, I was even thinking about something at work earlier was, one of the issues I feel like with seasons right now is if you're the kind of player who doesn't necessarily find the Paragon grind enticing,
Hmm.
your season is kind of done once your seasonal journey is done because after that there's really no carrots at the end of the stick
Hmm.
besides like GR boards, and the boards kind of correlate very directly to higher Paragon levels. So, if that is all that's left and you finish it relatively early into the season, then you kind of feel like your season's over before the season is over. But what if you also had a way to, the same way that GRs kind of go on forever, what if the seasonal journey could go on forever? That might be a bit antithetical to why it's there in the first place, because you kind of want that sense of completion when you get
Hmm.
to the top tier. But at least maybe adding a tier or two above Guardian, or just like you said, retooling what's required for it, could at least make that journey towards completion a little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah. That is something that I would like. Going through and at least changing it so it doesn't stay as static as it is right now.
The question here though is, say resources are limited for development for D3 right now, if they make the seasonal journey something that they have to continually babysit, and I think it kind of goes against what they want to do with seasons, which is get them to a place where they're pretty set in stone and then just be able to roll them out, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Hmm. That that could definitely be a reason for not going through and making any updates to the season, like the
Just
seasonal
to,
journey.
yeah, just play devil's advocate. I mean, we
Yeah.
did see at least that they changed some of the requirements for the Hadrix gifts, and I feel like that
Hmm.
might happen again too. Just I think the only change was you had to kill a different boss, so that's not a significant change.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they whenever the PTR gets uploaded, updated, and what we might actually be getting. If because I don't think like this, they spent a lot of time and effort rebalancing the gyms for season 6.
Hmm.
And a couple of numbers tweaks, but not any real mechanic changes for the sets. I wonder if we'll see like even minor updates to the sets to do like just a little bit more tweaks to nab some of the outlying classes, to help bring them up a little bit. Uh, and if we might see a return of some seasonal items, or not so much seasonal items because those don't exist anymore, but at least adding in a couple new items for this season.
Yeah, yeah, just like some new powers, or because I think there are still some items out there too without legendary powers, and one of their goals stated a long time ago was to make sure there were no legendaries that didn't have like something unique about them.
Hmm. So that is some things to go and play with.
Potential, yeah. Hopefully that PTR is coming soon. I would say like if we're gonna get one, it would be within the next week or so.
Hmm. So that is something to go through and keep an eye out for, and that will definitely be great for us as we'll have more to go and talk about. But going into like some actual news items, there is the Blizzard Facebook integration. That
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Yep, which I do wonder. So I guess this one kind of came out of nowhere, but the whole point of it is just that Facebook has like this feature, which I'm sure anyone that uses Facebook is aware of it. And if you're one of those people that has sworn off Facebook, then you have no idea. But on Facebook, you can do a live stream, um, which is just like going through and streaming via Facebook. And they're now actually going to be adding um, that functionality into Blizzard games. So instead of having to like stream through a webcam, you can actually stream your Blizzard games onto Facebook. And so it's interesting that Facebook is kind of getting into this whole streaming, um, you know, kind of like market. like wanting to go through and get in there. Yeah, Twitch obviously has a stranglehold on it. There's some other ones, like I'm not sure if anyone even watches it anymore, but MLG had their own like streaming thing. Uh,
See,
YouTube YouTube does.
YouTube Gaming,
Yep.
Forge, GG.
Mhm.
There's a couple other ones that are mostly for foreign communities. Like I think there's shoot, I'm gonna forget the name of it. I think it starts with an N though, and that one I think mainly houses like Chinese players and things like that.
Mhm.
So there are some others out there, but like Twitch is the one that you know, right? Like that is the big boy in the room.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder. I think one of the main things I saw with this was there's not a ton of incentive for people who are pretty established on Twitch to switch to this because they probably already have a subscriber base. They have the capability of running ads, so they have a monetary aspect tied towards staying with Twitch. But for some other streamers that maybe don't have a foot in the door yet or have a really small market on Twitch, this could be a different way to kind of branch out, maybe gain an audience among your friends, and then that already kind of bolsters your numbers because people who should technically have similar interests as you or at least care about you if they're friended with you. And then you kind of grow it from there, maybe. And then who knows if Facebook ends up adding ad integration and things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think like one of the other functionalities of this is that you can now uh, log into games using your Facebook login, so you can log
Hmm.
in via Facebook. And is can I know that they did like the live streaming event for the Overwatch launch, but are there any other games that support it just yet?
There was a Heroes of the Storm collegiate thing that was also streamed on Facebook, but I don't know that that means there's integration there just yet. It could be a thing that's coming.
All right.
Something to definitely keep an eye on because it could mean I don't know. It's always interesting when you see other people enter markets that seem to be somewhat established already.
Mm-hmm.
It might actually
Uh,
make Twitch like better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that was one thing. A lot of people were worried when YouTube gaming first opened up because people are like, well, YouTube has a much bigger experience. What does that mean for going and maintaining the Twitch streams? That even though YouTube does have a larger user base, people still go to Twitch, and that's still the best one. So it'll be, this is an attempt I think to try and get in more of a non-gamer community. Um, with the the upcoming Facebook integration.
Hmm.
So that'll be interesting what it does as far as getting other people because this could be something that's not directed at you, myself, the people here in the Twitch chat because we're streaming on Twitch right now, or you all listening at home or watching it on YouTube. This could be more of a market towards getting people that really don't watch streams or aren't interested in streams, getting them into it. And then who's to say that once they go through and they watch a couple streams, they're like, oh, this is cool. Where can I find more? And then, they discover the magics of Twitch and the, you know, cesspool that is Twitch chat.
Yeah, or even another thing that I really didn't think about till you just mentioned this is the other side of it, right? So we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about it from the user experience, but what about the people that make the games? I think this basically becomes free advertisement for Blizzard because if I just randomly decide, one night I love Overwatch, I'm going to stream it on my Facebook. Some friends of mine who I haven't been able to convince to play Overwatch yet watch the stream and they're like, "Oh, this game actually does look cool."
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not at my house watching me, over my shoulder the way like we used to in the olden days.
Man, you died. Pass the controller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So now, it's kind of letting them into the living room without being here, and you get that experience of, oh man, there's this hype because you're enjoying it and I'm enjoying watching you, and I want to get it. Boom, sell more copies.
Yep. Which that actually like the whole like watching someone over your shoulder. I almost got some of my friends convinced to do like an Overwatch party, and it's like every time that you died in the match, you had to pass the controller to the next person because you can go and swap heroes whenever you want to. So that
All
way you
right,
could have a group of people that even though it doesn't support like split screen co-op on the consoles, it was a way of doing kind of like a couch co-op of you just constantly are passing around the controller.
I like that. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice way to kind of like have a party without having a party.
Exactly. Um, that let's see. Moving on to our next topic, there is also the small D2 patch that came out. Was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. The
Hmm.
uh, Diablo 2 patch 1.14D. And this one's interesting because it actually was we've implemented Blizzard error and system survey to better troubleshoot crashes and assertions. So that one I find is kind of interesting is they're actually going and adding in a system to Diablo 2 to help monitor crashes so that way they can, I guess, better fix or patch the game.
Right. It's kind of a patch that allows them to do more patching in the future, it seems like. So continued development on D2.
Yeah, this really goes through and adds more speculation to that whole like classic games department that Blizzard is advertising jobs for. Like are they going to do more than just like adding Diablo 2 into the Battle.net 2.0 interface so you can go and bring up Diablo 2 in your launcher and that it integrates that with like Battle.net chat? Or are they actually going to be doing like a bit more of an update? Because that's always something that fueled a lot of speculation because they have the artist, outsourcer that they're looking
Hmm.
for like the classic games. Are they gonna is that just to do some art for a loading screen and it's the Battle.net app integration, or are we going to see more of an actual graphics overhaul for the game?
I don't know. Things seem to be leaning towards a bit more significant changes.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like it's such a minor patch that really shouldn't mean anything at all. We patched in better error reporting software. Why are they patching in better error reporting software for a 16-year-old game? You know,
Tinfoil hats tingling.
exactly. It really could just be that we just patched in better error reporting for a 16-year-old game, and that's the end of it. And we're reading between lines that aren't there. But hey, it's
That's what
cool.
we're here for, right?
Exactly.
That's
Uh,
what's fun.
which actually, going through and checking the job postings, they no longer have that classic games art outsourcer, so it looks like they found somebody.
Hmm. So maybe we'll be seeing things sooner than later.
Diablo 2
Point 5?
version 2? Yeah, Diablo 2.5 coming in 2017.
It reminds me of like the whole Kingdom Hearts thing. I feel like they've been putting out like 2.5, 2.8, 2.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2.5, 2.5 Remix, Redux. And then we're getting, and then that will just be like 2017 will be the year of remakes. We can get Diablo 2.5. We're getting, Final Fantasy 12.5 and the
Ooh.
Final Fantasy 7 remake.
It's they say art imitates life, or other things imitate other things, and I feel like
Hmm.
in Hollywood we've been getting a ton of remakes lately, so maybe
Yeah.
it's the gaming world's time.
The gaming, yeah. But but unlike, what they seem to be doing a lot in Hollywood, we're actually asking for these things in the gaming world. We want a high definition remake of Final Fantasy 7 and like Diablo 2. I, I, I I don't really need, another like bad
Eight,
sequel to some
18
other
more
game.
Spider-Mans.
Well, I don't know. I could probably go for 18 more Spider-Mans, but that's just because I love Spider-Man.
God damn it.
I don't care what anybody says. I love the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Hate me now. I enjoyed it.
I didn't see it, so I can't hate you.
Okay, there we go. I'll take
Oh,
it. I'll take
all
it.
right. Good. Good. All
Uh,
right. Moving along to
move,
some more.
yeah, to some more. I guess this is. I mean, do we want to leave like the big one for last?
Yeah, I was gonna go and hit this blue post here.
Okay, let's do that.
All right. So Nevilistus hopped into the forums recently and gave us an update on transmog cosmetics. And something that people were reporting was that there seemed to be a bit of a bug because the Ghoul King's Blade was dropping what people thought was only in campaign mode.
Hmm.
And then Nevilistus did a bit more digging, and she noted that it actually drops in both campaign and adventure mode. But there's a bounty that's tied to the one in adventure mode, so you don't see the Ghoul King's Blade reward as often as you should,
Hmm.
or just like the chance for it to spawn is way less because of this bounty kind of crossing over. So there is that, and she kind of explained why that was occurring that way. And she said it's a fix that they will hopefully get to in the future, but there's that unique trait of it dropping in both modes. However, she did further research and she found that there are actually a few of these cosmetics that drop in both adventure and campaign mode. And while they originally thought it was a bug and called it a bug, they're actually okay with it as a quote unquote bug, and they're not going to change it. So
Hmm.
even though these items were originally intended to be adventure mode rewards, things for you to get while you're exploring in adventure mode, they're fine with it also popping up in campaign.
Yeah. It's not like you really need to do anything to disinterest people in campaign even further than it already is.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I could definitely see not bothering with the development time to fix that bug.
Yeah.
The three people that it actually affects, I'm sure, are thankful that they can continue to go and play through the campaign mode and get a couple extra cosmetic items.
Fair enough.
Hmm. Oh, no, that actually does. I do think about that now because people that don't have Reaper of Souls.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So
Ah,
it's a little treat for them.
so there you go. That I because I was just trying to think, why would it really matter whether it drops in both or only in one? And then it's like, oh yeah, because there are some people that still don't have it. I don't know how many of them continue to play the game on a regular basis, but that yes, that's nice.
Well, here's a question though. If you don't have Reaper of Souls, do you even get patch updates?
Oh yeah, you still get the patch. You have everything except you can't go above level 60, and you can't access adventure mode, which means that you can't access rifts or greater rifts.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, you
I guess.
can't do bounties, which means that you can't get Kanai's cube, because it's like a lot of those things aren't necessarily disabled because you can, if you're leveling 1 to 60, you can play with someone in the base game
Hmm.
that doesn't have Reaper, I believe.
Interesting.
It's just they have that that kind of ceiling which prevents them from going on. I don't remember whether or not they I believe they can still gain Paragon levels. I don't remember for certain what it is that you can and cannot do in the base game. I want to
I
say
wonder.
that you still have access to the Paragon system, but nothing else.
I think we did before Reaper rolled out because it
Yeah.
was that one pre-patch before the expansion where they did Sharagon.
Hmm.
I wonder though what the difficulty of the patch of the non-expanded game is like because I don't think you'd be able to get any of the new sets then because those don't drop until you're 70.
Hmm. Yeah, that would pretty much tie out them from being able to access any of that either. And they can't access anything above Torment 6 because that requires level 70 as well.
Hmm. Sounds like a really weird version of the game. I'd be curious to almost like try to play it just to see if it because there was kind of that movement for a hot second where people were like, I want to go back and play the old Inferno and see what it would be like. I almost wonder if this would replicate. Obviously, not that degree of difficulty, but something like that,
Yeah, Diablo 3 classic servers.
right?
Yeah, you can't get it in WoW, but we want it in D3.
That would be a pretty nice shot in the ribs if we did get it in D3, but they didn't do it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of classic Diablo 3
Oh, are we
transition,
we're transition? We're going on to that news item now.
I think it makes perfect sense.
Okay, yeah, we've got the hook. Now just have to continue on. I'm ruining this, aren't I?
Yeah, you really are.
I did. I'm the
Oh,
ruiner.
gosh.
Haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
And speaking of classics,
You got it. You
there's
saved it, people.
there it is. There's major news that came out of the Blizzard Entertainment employees and who is still and still not there. And unfortunately, we learned earlier this week that Jay Wilson, the original game director for Diablo 3, the creator behind this whole thing that we love and play right now, is gone. He's leaving Blizzard. at the
Yeah.
end of this week.
Yeah, so I imagine that means Friday will be his last day, depending upon when you're listening to this episode. But it seems that June 10th should be his last day at Blizzard Entertainment. And he's actually not just leaving Blizzard, he's leaving the video game industry completely. And he's actually going back to his original passion that he was doing before, he actually got into the video game industry, and that's writing. So
Yeah.
so he's going to go back to focus, on his writing career, which, I don't think he's worked at Blizzard now for 10 years, and I forget the name of the studio that he was at beforehand, but it was he made Dawn of War, and I don't know if that was one of his first ones. That was Relic Entertainment. I don't know if that was his first gig within the games industry.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've seen a lot of chatter around this, of course, because people. So this is obviously a hard topic to talk about without riling people's emotions up, because a lot of people attribute much of what was terrible about Diablo 3 originally directly to Jay Wilson, and it's kind of like in sports where you see a lot of people heap the troubles of a team on, in football, the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very direct, easy person to say, hey, they're supposed to be in control of this whole thing. The team didn't win, so I'm blaming the quarterback because you are the most visible person. So in the same sense, I think it's I think it's a little unfair that Jay gets as much vitriol as he does because he still had a team around him. If there were so many changes that seemed so bad to the game, there should have been someone in that room who's like, "Hey, by the way, I don't think this is good. We can change this." So if you want to place blame, you should place blame across the board potentially. But
Mm-hmm.
that's also unfair just from the general standpoint to say that Diablo 3 has no good things about it, because when it first came out, everyone lauded the amazing, visceral, in your face, smooth gameplay. Like the
Mm-hmm.
combat is, and it hasn't changed since Reaper of Souls and all the patches and things. Like that is one of the core aspects that makes this game so good, is that the battle
Mm-hmm.
feels amazing.
Yeah, no, that function of the game system, the game engine, is still there. That hasn't changed much. Like all the peripheral stuff has, but not that particular mechanic.
All right. So I mean, if you're going to, pick at some of the bad stuff, which of course there are plenty of those things. Like we can always kind of use the auction house as the whipping boy of things that really seem to be wrong for the game.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think you should also applaud the things that went well for the game, which was especially that just core aesthetic of how Diablo 3 plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also one thing I think you used to say this a long time ago when we were freshly kind of getting used to Josh Mascara, was that these changes that came with the advent of Josh coming to the team, it doesn't happen overnight. Like we understand that game development takes months and
Mm-hmm.
iterations and many like processes before things change. So it's kind of safe to say that when Josh took the helm, potentially some of the changes that came in with him were, maybe they were co-worked with Josh, but you have to believe that Jay also had some hand in that as well. So maybe as we saw them implement things like the Paragon system and stuff to kind of like band-aid and make the game better, they were getting it right. And then I think they just needed that one more step of saying, hey, like we still have this bad PR taste in our mouth. Let's just, make this figurehead change so that the people can feel like it's a really fresh start. But I think if you're looking back without like full information, it's very easy to just pick at the moments of like, oh, this was so bad, this was wrong. But I think along the way, you have to give some credit just to say that things were getting a little back on track. And then obviously, like Loot
Mm-hmm.
2.0 exploded things.
Oh yeah, of course. That is one of those ones where it's like, when you go through and you look at Reaper and patch 2.0, like that made some massive wide sweeping changes. But the game itself got a lot better and was really fun to play, like with every single patch back in the original game. And that was definitely something that, you know Jay was obviously still at the helm and controlling a lot of those decisions. I think part of it, what came down like to like some of the unsuccessful things with the launch, is that they a lot of people will comment that the game just didn't feel like 100%. It wasn't complete.
Mm,
I don't think it was like so much of a running out of time, but if you look at how the game played, like in each BlizzCon leading up to the launch, it underwent every year from year to year. It underwent some like massive sweeping changes from talent trees to skill orbs, to having the talisman to having no talisman, and it just felt kind of like maybe they made some decisions in a hurry, like some rush
hmm.
decisions. Um, for the game at release, and once it actually was out there and they could get a lot of this like good test data and what people are really looking for and how people really feel playing the game, because the beta, even though it lasted for a while, was only to level 12. You can't test the game on that. You have no idea how that's actually going to run or work with legendaries up at level 60 and what have you.
Right.
So once they got some more feedback and such, they were really quick at going through and pushing out a lot of these sweeping changes. The implement of the monster power system, the nerfing of Inferno, Paragon levels, a bunch of really fun and interesting changes. But if they basically, if they needed the crossbear for the game in order to take it back and leave some of that negative stigma behind, Jay really did go through and take that upon himself, to continue to be that figurehead to take all the negative criticism. So it did make for an easy kind of like a PR switch with Jay moving on to a different game, a different design team, and then Josh coming in, and then them announcing all these other big, wide sweeping changes. Like as you said, had to have been in development for months ahead of time uh, before Josh had actually taken the helm.
Hmm.
That's not, of course, to downplay any of the contributions that Josh made, because as we've heard in a lot of the Reaper postmortems that he's done, that he was one of those ones that really pushed for the closing of the auction house and the changing of some of the mentality and the way that they go through and they make the game, and how he talked at last year's BlizzCon of taking some of those like design pillars that Jay had implemented for Diablo 3, and like kind of like condensing them down and refining those to make the whole kind of like guiding path for the dev team a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to give credit to Josh. Credit where credit's due.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff that we're seeing now is the best that the game has ever had. So that obviously is attributed towards his vision for the game and continuing, like you just said, on really expounding on the pillars and what they identified to make Diablo 3 a good game and really coming through to
Mm-hmm.
hit those points. Um, What's kind of interesting though is I almost miss, maybe this is rose tinted as well too. I kind of miss the turmoil of back in the day Diablo 3, just because I can remember where I was when, and then like insert any of these things. Like I can remember I was walking in Watertown, Massachusetts, getting a Panera sandwich when the dev blog post that Jay put out announcing the Paragon system came out. Like I remember being in line and they were like calling my number, and I was just like reading this thing and scrolling on my phone, and they kept calling my number, and I was like, but I have to. But I need to what? What
What?
parent? What is this? So like, even though they were correcting things and people were like this should have been in the game since the beginning, it was still cool to get those things as like to be there from the beginning when the game wasn't as robust, and to see all these little pieces come in to make it more complete, more complete, more
Mm-hmm.
complete, and to just be thrilled when all those things were happening. Like I remember hounding Lilira for like patch notes whenever we knew that Tuesday we were going to get something. I was like, I'm at work, but I want to see what I'm going to get when I get home for this patch. Like, is the patch notes up yet? Are the patch notes up yet? And just kind of the hype behind all of those changes that were necessary,
Mm-hmm.
but at least still exciting. And even though, and that's not to say now that the changes that we get aren't exciting, but the game is in such a good place where you're just like, okay, it's like more icing on my cake. Whereas before, I
Yeah.
I, I had no icing on my cake.
Mm-hmm. Now they're actually putting icing on the cake, and it's not just like going through and like adding in those like cute little flowers that everyone goes through and fights over because they want more of the icing. It's just like now we actually have it.
Exactly. It's like I was eating dry cereal and you gave me a glass of milk. Oh my gosh, this is so delicious
This is
now.
awesome!
Yeah.
Yay!
So yeah, it's just it's
Eh,
definitely sad to see him go because it's also like you mentioned, he was working on something else, and we still don't know what that is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people have went through and throw out. Maybe it's like he was going through and helping with Overwatch. Is there some other unannounced project that Blizzard's working on? Besides Diablo 4, that we don't know about?
Hmm. I mean, maybe this is where we keep saying kind of like what's going to be at BlizzCon. Maybe there's something like he did what he had to do. He's moving on, and it's in the hands of some other people now, and then we'll see it at BlizzCon.
Yeah, maybe. Which,
Hmm.
I do wonder what are we gonna have at this year's BlizzCon? You know, will we be surprised and get like a Diablo expansion? Indoor possible Diablo 4. You know,
Yeah,
both of which I unfortunately find highly unlikely at this particular year's BlizzCon. Will we get a World of Warcraft expansion? I know we'll get probably a Hearthstone adventure mode or a new expansion pack.
right. Yeah, if you look across the board of games, like at that point, a lot of stuff will be released and kind of either in its infancy or kind of doing its thing because Overwatch is out,
Yeah.
and I don't really know what the model will be for them adding to that game. Um, StarCraft, maybe we'll get another one of those kind of like story expansion things like they did with Nova and Ghost.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I paid for that and have not played it yet. I want to say that came out like 4 months ago.
Yeah, you're a little late.
Yeah. Damn.
You got to get your
I
money's worth.
until you mentioned it, I had completely forgot that even existed.
Yep, that was the thing.
That
That
was a
was
thing. I
it
need to
came out.
I need to go and play that apparently
Yeah, put it
at
on
some
your
point.
list.
Yeah, I guess I will.
But yeah, so there are those. Maybe we'll get something like that. You mentioned Hearthstone already. Like that's kind of like clockwork. We tend to get those announcements there. Um, but then like, yeah, like we don't really know the state of Diablo. We don't really know the state of Warcraft. Like if for them to announce the next expansion, that would be fast turnaround. Although people have been saying that's what they've wanted all along, right? It was supposed to be like a year
They,
between each
yeah, they
expansion.
they wanted a year between each expansion, but they cited a lot of the problems that they ran into this time is because they greatly expanded the staff, and it's there. I can't remember what it is, but there's actually within the business world there is a particular uh, like framework or model or like question, kind of like a thought experiment that as you go to try and tackle a problem, you can throw more people at it, but that in turn also increases your production time because you have to bring those new people up to speed.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that they experienced here was just they expanded the World of Warcraft team by a lot, and so they ended up encountering issues of where they were spending a lot of time teaching people and bringing them up to speed. This is how things are done, teaching them how to go through and use their internal systems. Because Blizzard, even though they use a lot of mainstream like graphic design products and such, a lot of their stuff is all made or tweaked in house.
Hmm.
And it's all like custom made like software, for doing like how they alter their models and stuff like that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. If
I,
you
I
if you like.
they wanted to get expansions out like once a year, and that was kind of like one of those things like Warlords of Draenor is going to be like the longest, you know, time period that they've gone. It's like almost like every expansion has a longer time window that they go between the final patch and the next expansion with no content updates.
Right. Yeah, if you were to graph like
Um,
the usefulness chart of a new employee, it probably would look something like oh gosh, I'm trying to talk math like I know math, I don't know math,
mhm.
but it's one of those like slow curves, and then it like skyrockets up because the usefulness will like reach that level where it's exponentially
Mhm.
getting better because now that they're integrated and early on they basically aren't doing they're getting coffee for you, right, and like learning
Yeah.
stuff, and then eventually they're just like off and running. You don't have to babysit them anymore, and they're
Mhm.
actually making things for you.
Yeah.
uh,
That
one
is one thing that Blizzard has always done without fail, and that they have announced a new World of Warcraft expansion at the BlizzCon immediately following the launch of the previous expansion.
Except for last year when it was at Gamescom, which is something I want to bring up
It's
because
just true.
Gamescom is coming up this
Yeah,
August.
yeah. That one is closer than BlizzCon, so we might go through and see something.
All right, and I think that's kind of something we should keep our eye on. E3 is coming up too, but we know that traditionally Blizzard doesn't have a very great presence there.
Hmm.
But with Gamescom, they've been known. I mean, this is where they broke Reaper, right? So like there have been huge announcements at Gamescom for Blizzard, and so I think we can actually get maybe a decent picture of what's to come, what to expect
Hmm.
based on what gets broken at Gamescom. Because if
Yeah.
they unveil like a new StarCraft thing, then we can say, okay, so there's definitely no like super
But
hype thing for StarCraft at BlizzCon. Now there's even more open room for these other games.
yeah, though I think that there are like certain things that they've done with that, like announcing the game at Gamescom. I believe they did that with Reaper because they didn't want to take away because they were announcing Warlords of Draenor
I see what you're
at
saying.
that
So
at
not
that
to like
same year. So it's and just
spread
like
it out.
yeah, they want to go through and um, spread out like these super huge announcements, before they go and do things. I'm not sure. I guess like that doesn't really follow through of last year because there wasn't anything super huge
At BlizzCon.
at BlizzCon last year that they couldn't have waited to announce Legion there as opposed to Gamescom.
I think with Legion, it was kind of like a fan service thing. Like,
Yeah,
if you
they wanted
recall,
they wanted to get it out as quickly as they could because of all the bad press they were getting from Warlords.
exactly, exactly. I think it was kind of like a time is of the essence thing, so they needed to say something earlier than later.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess kind of maybe to sum things up here is we obviously don't know much. We've had a string of employees kind of shuffling and leaving and things like that. So I wonder if there's kind of this changing of the guard at Blizzard, where a lot of the more seasoned people are either moving on to other companies or leaving the gaming world in general. Um, and if maybe there's like this kind of like influx of young blood, because the thing is like you hear about significant departures, but you don't hear necessarily of like significant additions unless there's someone who's like big time leaving like Riot or Valve or something and coming to Blizzard, and we haven't really
Hmm.
seen any of those. But I wonder if maybe like there's just this young blood, and we might see, especially as their games are kind of changing in the way that they deliver like these like new microtransaction type of experiences. Maybe there's just this new
Hmm.
ideology.
And now that you mention it, come to think of it, there are like really not that many rock stars, like within the gaming development world. You'll have people, like for us when we saw Leonard Boyarsky, John Yang, and Don Vu all leave the development team, we're all like, oh, that is so hurtful. Those are all like great people that do awesome jobs and stuff like that. You go through and you talk to someone that like only plays World of Warcraft, like, oh, John Yang and Don Vu just joined the World of Warcraft team, and the WoW players just like, who?
Yeah,
It's there you have the developers that are important to you because they make
that's
the
true.
game you care about, but outside of that, it's like, name like a big name, developer from another company, besides like Gabe or Ghostcrawler.
Dang it, I was gonna say
I
Ghostcrawler.
know. Even though he doesn't even go by Ghostcrawler anymore, does he?
I
Greg
don't.
Street is his
Greg
actual
Street.
name, yeah.
Uh, I'm sure I know some writer who does like skins for League or something. I don't know. You're right though. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, we pay attention to what we care about the most. So.
Exactly. And so like other developers, they could have like a freaking amazing person like going through and joining like one of the Diablo development team and something like that to replace the other people that left, and we would never know because we have no idea what these other people have done or what they've been a part of.
Mhm. Well, I mean,
And
that
like
kind
even
of.
like even going through and saying it, like even though like Jay Wilson, was the head developer for like Diablo 3 and like Dawn of War, which is an amazing game, got a lot of accolades. He doesn't even have like a Wikipedia page.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
actually kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point there at the end. I definitely agree.
Hmm. Ah, so, What else did we have? I guess getting into like some of the community stuff here. There was the little post on Reddit about like how the different regions stack up to one another.
This was an interesting one. A couple of bar graphs
There
across
we
the
go.
board to show the solo classes and then also the 2 player, 3 player, and 4 player. Kind of like meta, the top meta though, because we're looking at the top 10 players slash groups across the different regions. And one of the biggest trends that's very obvious is Wizard is killing it. They're miles ahead of other classes in terms of GR completion, and that's expressed across all regions. So you just would see Wizard no matter where you are, topping the leaderboards. But what's very interesting is that China tends to be the leader in terms of the highest clears. And some people are saying, this is attributed to their ability to purchase experience boosts and things like that. So maybe they have higher Paragon levels that they push with and whatnot. But outside of that, Europe is kicking the US's butt, man.
Yeah, we are like the U.S. is like the redheaded stepchild there. We're not number one in a single category.
No, man. Although, and also I guess it's useful to note that this was snapshotted 1 month into season 6 for these results. Um, you do see a small sliver of America ahead of EU in the monk.
Yep, we
So
got it.
go team.
We got it.
But that's it, man. Outside of that, the leading region seems to be after China seems to be the EU and then Asia, and then we're kind of closely behind Asia.
Yeah, which actually is like, but yeah, the EU when you go through and you check it out, they're like um they are the top in the 2 and the 3 player groups. But then when it gets to the 4 player group, it like changes all of a sudden,
Hmm.
which is pretty strange.
Yeah, I wonder what that's attributed to. Maybe
Hmm.
it's. I don't know though, because you would think if they have the second highest in all the solos, then you would think the characters would be there, the player numbers would be there for them to also create the compositions necessary for the 4 player.
Yeah, but then again, I guess it also goes through if these high pushing 4 player groups. It's all based around a wizard and 3 support classes, and like Asia has the best wizards as far as at least the solo clears.
That's a good point. That is a good point. So yeah, maybe it's a lack of wizards
Mm-hmm.
are holding things back. But yeah, so we always say that we love these infographics and things. So it's really cool when we see them come up through the community. I like to pull them out and highlight them. So this is just another one that we have here.
Yeah, and to also go on top of that, Lala has gone through and has updated her season 6 solo leaderboard range for both softcore and hardcore.
This is right. Yeah. So we had hers twice last season. She did a snapshot, kind of early season, and then I actually think she might have done it 3 times. I think it was early season, mid season, and the end of the season that she got results. Um, and it's kind of more of the same. I guess it's a deeper dive into the Americas, so you can see a little bit of what's going on with us. But yeah, so looking across the board, in softcore, the average GR for pretty much every class is 80, and then it takes off a little for witch doctors and wizards. And wizards have a average that's actually above 90. Witch doctors looks like it's around like 82, 83. And then for hardcore, a lot of ours are coming in just slightly under 70, with demon hunters being the outlier, pretty close to 73. Now, what do you think that's attributed to? Because that's kind of interesting. I have a theory, but I want to hear from you.
Well, I think that goes through as far as like the average again being in hardcore when we talked about this last time, is you have even though they can't push as high as the other ones because of their skill set, probably attributed to range and it being hardcore, that they feel safer or more comfortable pushing higher. So you're going to have people such as yourself that will, push the limits of their character, uh, you know, to as far or as extreme as they can, and those are the people that are making those very high greater rift pushes. But then you have the rest of the player base, which will just go through and find what is what's going to be on, I'm going to play on the safe side. I'm going to play a little bit more conservatively. And
Hmm.
so with the demon hunters, you just have those people that are able to go through and push to that amount, conservatively, so their average becomes higher.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I think one of the things we touched on last time when we talked about this too was, DH is actually ranged, so you do have a little bit of a leeway there as well. So even if you're taking awareness, for instance, you do have the comfort of also being at range, and if things get bad, the same way that DHs have a really tough time of skipping stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know that you can always retreat backwards and just get out of there. And if you're at range, you can more easily retreat backwards as well too.
Yeah.
Something I did want to throw out though is a two-factor result. One could be that DHs aren't particularly in the four-player meta. Like you can make a support DH, but it's not being heavily requested right now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe DHs are just like, well, I do my own thing anyway, so I'm just gonna go and push solo because no one else wants to play with me. So there's that, but there's also the potential of wizards because they're in such high demand, maybe they're not pushing solo as much yet, and they're just being relegated to these groups because everyone wants that wizard DPS. And if you're thinking about it, that means they're pushing into those higher GRs, and obviously the whole setup, the whole meta setup is there to make sure that wizard doesn't die. But you probably run into instances where things go bad, someone lags out, or it just doesn't work out properly, and the wizard dies. That's the main class within like a four-player group that is going to die because all the supports are built so tanky.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there are also a lot of wizards that could potentially push higher and kind of skew these results in their favor, but they've died off in groups.
Yeah. Or they haven't even tried yet.
And there's most
Yeah.
likely it's that they're
And
they're already getting their level 100 plus gems up for augments. So.
yeah, and even though I don't have this, up on the video to go through and show people, um, but another one of the interesting phenomenon, happens again where you have a big pop at the Greater Rift 70 in hardcore. So people going through and doing that just so that they can get their Guardian achievement done and then never go through to push higher than that. And the largest one at level 70 is the Demon Hunters. And I want to say that might be a combination of like that ranged ability to go through and play it safe up to Greater Rift 70, but also combined with Marauders is a very very powerful set. Especially if your goal is to just get to 70.
That's yeah, and that's actually a really strong point because one of the things that was a popular topic on Reddit before the season started was which class can I use to get my Conqueror stash tab / seasonal journey done the fastest, and I think the answer to that very popularly was the DH because yes, they were getting a really strong Hadric set, and also if you can switch over to UE, that's also going to be pretty quick because you'll have the resource cost reduction, so you can vault all over the place and whatnot. So it's just a fast, setup. You'll be able to get your goals done rather quickly on that class. I think you're probably right in that a lot of people roll DH, if not just for the purpose of getting that done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, more analytics, more numbers. We love it when this stuff comes in. So keep it coming, people.
Yeah, and also like speaking on like the topic of analytics, Uluru went through and had sent us a video that he wanted us to go through and comment on. This one is from Game Ranks. It's like kind of like a top 10 list, and it's the top 10 changes that the YouTube creator, he goes by Falcon, wants to see in Diablo 3. Now we can go through, link that in chat, and we'll also link it in the YouTube video comments when you go through and see that. But it's an interesting little take. This was from April, the beginning of April, I think is when it was updated.
Sounds about right.
And it's just like what he thinks would be like the top 10 changes to implement for Diablo 3 to make it a better game. And like what our take on this particular list is.
And so I summarized it very quickly for our purposes of talking about it on the show. The main topics I took away from the video was that there's the want for more content, something more than just cosmetics, or at least some info on when and where we'll get more content, whether that's an
Mhm.
expansion or like another beefy patch,
Yeah,
or
which
just
which is actually funny because like if we want to go through and kind of like break it down, like the number 10 was specifically calling out for an expansion or information on when the next expansion will be. But this also is the one that kind of made me think, does this guy really play Diablo 3 as much? Because this was just as it was gearing up for the launch of season 6, and he was talking about, oh, we're about to get a mini expansion, which is like, oh no. Not this patch. Last patch, yes. This patch, no, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah, what it is what you expect for an expansion. Why this one isn't number one, I have no idea.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out if it's an ordered list or if it's just a list, just 10 things in general.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff, it seems like it could have been ordered differently for sure. Um, Other things included as well were better stash management, system to save builds and gear. And a
Hmm.
lot of these we have, of course, have heard, take any week and we've been focusing on one of these issues that's on here. We've gotten a lot of emails from you guys on them as well. So these are definitely some popular topics that have been previously requested as well. Global play, more areas, kind of ties into more content as well too. The Nemesis system from the console, a loot filter of sorts if the pet could pick up specific items, and that's kind of what Aluru's email last time we had a show was specifically keying in on. A chat system revamp, which is one I actually hadn't heard much of, but definitely makes sense. A legendary gem UI, which is something that everyone's been asking for quite some time. And my number one personally, Paragon system rework.
Hmm. Yeah, that is one that we've talked about a lot, is that Paragon system rework. And so I'm glad that someone that, just by going and looking at the video, obviously doesn't play Diablo 3 that much, still has kind of a vested interest in it, but even he's calling for there to be some sort of revamp of the Paragon system, so that way it feels like something other than just an endless grind of levels that never ends. Because when you get into more of like the season competition, that's what will make or break you. Are you Paragon
Exactly.
2000? Sorry, handle it
Exactly.
next time.
And it's the kind of thing too that I feel like it promotes. I mean, it's tough because what can you do that is like fun and endless at the same time? Like to some degree, I was talking to a friend about this who doesn't play Diablo, and she was just trying to, again, wrap her head around like what Diablo is. Same friend I was talking about that one time. Um, but the idea of a game that is endlessly fun and also a game that doesn't feel like a grind, and can those two things coexist? And it's tough because I think you want a game that gives you things to look for and continuously do, but anything that you do ad nauseum becomes kind of a grind. Like even the most exciting job that you start, by a few years in, if nothing has really changed for you, you're not as excited about it as you were on day one. And that kind
Hmm.
of plays into seasonal play, where in the first week it's so much fun. Even though you're doing the same exact thing you normally do, it's so much fun because you're starting over. It's fresh. It's the first day of school kind of feeling. And then as time goes on, it's now the 200th day of school. You've done this quiz before, you've done this test, you've done this busy work basically. And if that's going to be kind of the experience that we get from season to season, I feel like people's interest in seasons will curtail at a sooner and sooner period into a season. Like even right now, I feel like we definitely have less people active, about a month plus in than we'd had well up until maybe 2 months into last season.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
and yeah, I guess there was one other thing that I did want to mention from like this list that I definitely agreed with, and that was the Nemesis system on PC.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and like a lot of the other ones that you talked about was like he wanted like new content, and then some of the other points was new content, but like specific new content, like new areas. Like if we could get another Grey Hollow Island, that'd be awesome. Um, and one other one of like updating the legendary gem system to be more of a UI interface than actual physical items, so that way you could make it easier to share gems between characters. So there's like a lot of like little interesting things like that that I enjoyed. Though a lot of his reasoning for some of these updates, like the like auto picking up, having your pet like auto pick up, being able to tell your pet to auto pick up like items or crafting materials or something like that, and the reasoning for it, oh, is because it'd be easy to develop. I think that he had a very skewed perception about what is easy and what is not easy to develop in a video game.
Right. Yeah, there was a bit of an interesting delivery on some of the points.
Yeah, especially when they talked about like making gyms be auto pickup and having it more of like a system where it functioned like gold instead of an item. And one of the reasons why it was scrapped was because it was just like too much work.
Hmm.
And then of course is you have another guy that's just going through and saying, yeah, why don't you do that? It's easy.
Right. Yeah. There's some people are tuned in more than others, and I think some people have good intentions, but don't necessarily voice them as well as they could. Because I mean, it's still a list that is going to engender conversation and make some valid points, but obviously, like the delivery of just do it because I say you shouldn't, it should be easy to do,
Hmm.
isn't productive, right?
Exactly.
Uh, one of the things I kind of notice as a trend on a lot of these is that it's definitely to the point where most of these are kind of quality of life, like better stash management improves your quality of life because you're spending less time digging through these tabs of stuff. The system to save builds and gear, again, another quality of life, because
Hmm.
basically a lot of these are just like time savers. It's being able to not have to think so heavily about like where did I leave those gloves, like what did I have in this build the last time I played it, go into Rift, oh yeah, I didn't change my Boon of the Hoarder out, and stuff
Hmm.
like that, that just kind of saves headaches. um, so to me, like I would be happy for all of these, but I don't even necessarily see them as like I need it in the game yesterday. Like if it comes in, I'm gonna be happy that I get it. But at
Hmm.
the same time, like we already have enough
It,
things that we do to work around it.
yeah, it would be a great addition to the game that doesn't actually change how you play or impact your gameplay in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It really is like you said a quality of life. It just saves me time so that way I can swap between doing like bounties or playing support or pushing a greater rift or doing a speed farming faster.
And the thing there is, I feel like those changes are obviously useful because they will certainly appease the people that find them to be the most like noisy, the most of a nuisance to them. But also, it doesn't necessarily relate to people who want more stuff because it, like you said, it doesn't actually change the way you play. So at any given point, when they add some of these quality of life things, you're like great, it's making my life better, but I'm still doing the same thing. So I will just actually do those things better, more efficiently, and maybe I burn out of the game even faster than I normally would, without actual new tangibles. I guess is the best word for it.
Hmm.
But where my eggs lie in that basket.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna see anything major for D3 at this point.
Yeah, not at the moment. No. No, I guess that will be like the real big call. Is this special Diablo 3 unannounced project, or I guess not Diablo 3, but Diablo unannounced project? Uh, is that expansion 2 or is that Diablo 4? I'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
Yeah, because the all they've got five jobs posted up under Diablo, all for this unannounced project. And this we have our first like non-high level posting for that as well, because before it was um, you know art director, senior animator, senior concept artist, senior lighting, artist. And we have now a software engineer, or sorry, just a animator, and then a senior animator, a senior character artist, senior concept artist, and a senior visual effects artist for this unannounced project. And the one thing that they are looking for the Diablo team that's not related to that is a graphic software engineer.
Hmm. They're building that team.
That they are.
Yeah.
That they are. And a lot of this is still like I mentioned before. There's a lot of art jobs, and so these are ones that um, and especially when you look at like a character artist and a concept artist, this is some. far-reaching stuff. It's going to be a while before, some of these jobs have been posted for a very long time now, and even after they get filled, it's going to be a while before they actually start producing anything that we would even be clued into.
Uh, BlizzCon 2017
Yes.
or Gamescom maybe. We'll see.
Gamescom 2018. There you go.
Oh God,
Yeah,
please no.
it'll be a while. Well, at least you'll have Final Fantasy VII next year.
There it is.
Yep. Into 12. And hey, you might even have Kingdom Hearts 3 while we're talking about it.
Oh well,
Oh no, that one won't be announced until 2017. The game won't come out till like 2020.
probably get Half-Life 3 before Kingdom Hearts 3.
We still have to get Episode 3 before we get Half-Life 3. Which diverging here for just 1 second is the thing that scares me the most about the Final Fantasy VII remake is because it's going to be, episodic content just like the Half-Life episodes. And so I can just go through and see it now where we just got like the end of like episode 3 and we're leaving Midgar and then production stops. And it's like, "No! No, the game just started." Uh
Let's hope it doesn't go that poorly, but I think that's a lot of people's fear right now.
yeah. Yeah. Uh,
No,
so I guess as far as that one, like one of the last things that we have to go and talk about is something that we talked about a little bit on the last episode, and that was that I have an extra Overwatch Origins Edition code to go through and give away. And so again, this is not. I guess I should clarify that even further. Further, this is not the game. This is just the code that comes in the Origins edition that unlocks the pet in World of Warcraft, the portrait frame in Mercy Wings in Diablo 3, card back for Hearthstone, yada yada yada. And this is so if you have no interest in getting Overwatch, or you're not going to go through and get it, or it might be a while, but you still want to get those cosmetic goodies, we do have one to give away here on the show. And this week we're going to tell you how you'll go about getting it. And for that, as always, we don't just do like a straight giveaway. We require you to do work, unfortunately. And this one is going to be for this particular contest is send an email into the show. Send an email that's westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Uh, Creating a Diablo character in Overwatch. So this could be anything. You want to put Tyrael into Overwatch, or you just want to put, your level 13 monk that you got started and never finished into Overwatch, or like someone like Rakanishu or Bloodraven, or I don't know, Wirt into Overwatch. Tell me the character that you would like to see, why you want to see them, and what their abilities are going to be. So that is how you get the Overwatch code. So again, if you want to enter in that contest, you'll have until our next episode, which is actually going to be June 22nd. So you've got 2 weeks to work on this one. So if you want to go and get entered and get those cosmetic items, send us an email about the Diablo character you want to see in Overwatch and how they would play. And again, the email address to send that into is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com.
nice. I like it. I'm making. Hold on, just it says create new Gmail account.
You
I'm just kidding.
already have the Overwatch stuff.
Yeah, but then I can give it away next
And then we
episode.
could, oh yeah, our winner. Oh hey, look, I just ended up getting an extra copy.
Oh, that's so
Uh,
weird. I also
oh,
now have
oh wow.
an additional code.
Yep. So yeah, go ahead, send that in. We together will pick our favorites, but we'd also, depending upon how many entries that we get, we'd love to read some of the best on the show next week. Not next week. Sorry, we're going to 2 weeks. On June 22nd for the next episode.
Word up.
Yep, and for that one, I think I have successfully segued us into our community section.
Well, well done.
All right, and for that, I guess since I segued, I will go ahead and get started. Uh, Our first email is going to come in from Natri. I think that's right.
Sure.
Nat Natri?
A
Nat
tree?
Yeah, Natri? Something like
NA
that.
tree.
Yeah, best in a tree. Um, so here we go. This is my first season playing hardcore and recently started listening to the podcast. It does great to kill 2 days off my morning commute. I mainly play solo right now, so my crusader and working on a wizard at the moment. My question is, how do I start really getting involved in group play? Playing solo is a ton of fun, but I think playing in a group on a wizard would be more fun. Thank you for your time. Love the show. Well, for that one, I guess one of the best ways of doing it would be to, join a community. Not so much necessarily a clan, but if there are a ton of communities, if you just go through and do a search for that are going to be there for, going in, playing in a group. If you can do public games, but you start getting some snobby people that expect you to play a certain way, and so if you expect, particularly if you're playing a wizard, if you're playing anything besides the meta build, then people will tell you that you're doing it wrong and vote to kick you. But if you join a community, like even our very own Westmarch Workshop community, without having to join the clan, there is still a bunch of people that go through and play hardcore that you might be able to go and find that would like to group up with you or find a group. But that's probably the best way to do it is just do a community search for hardcore rift groups. You might be able to find some people that would be willing to go and run some rifts, and hopefully once you get better gear, you'll be able to go and hit up some high level stuff.
Yeah, I totally second that. I actually was asking myself that same question last weekend, and I went and joined. I think it's called H. Oh, can't even talk. HC Greater Rifts and Hardcore Greater Rifts. They're two Greater Rift communities, and Nine Ball's certainly right that much of it is kind of people looking for the meta stuff. So they're like, support witch doctor looking to fill out party with heal monk and wizard DPS blah blah blah. But there actually are some too that are like we're just doing speeds and we don't care who it is. Like we just want people to come in. GR60 speeds, GR50 speeds, whatever.
Hmm.
So, kind of what's nice about the augment system is that you do have to get these gems leveled up, over these crazy levels. So, even
And so,
sometimes it's more.
yeah, you don't want to be empowering like a Greater Rift 80 to go through and try and level up a level 6 gym.
Exactly. So it's more efficient to be down in those lower, greater rifts, spend your gold wisely, and power, get it up to some, kind of base level, and then take it from there. So, you can definitely find some mix and match groups.
Hmm.
Community is the way to go. And that's actually one thing that I guess was kind of tied into his that list that we just talked about, the chat overhaul kind of thing. He was mainly keying on the fact that it felt like you could be in a chat and still have a lonely experience. I think just in general, like there's probably more robust features they can add to chat to kind of make it a more interesting experience. I know one of the things that people kind of lament is, not being able to name games, not being able
Hmm.
to trade with people, so you don't have that like social, that kind of forced social aspect.
Hmm.
But even if there were more like clan management tools, like I would love the ability to run like a weekly competition that I could track in the clan or something. Who can find the most legendaries? The game already tracks like who loots what legendaries and stuff.
Hmm.
So just being able to say like, all right, first person to get to 100, gets a star next to their name for the season, or can put a unique title next to their name or something. It just would be cool to kind of have more incentivized, fun features that don't even necessarily have to do with high level content.
Yeah, I would just like to see, as far as chat systems go, back to the old D2 chats where you'd actually see everyone's avatar down at the bottom.
Especially with all the cosmetics and things now.
Hmm.
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be a great way to show off.
or even if it just showed our banners, which you
That's your
never get to
crusade.
see. Yeah,
That is your crusade.
I it had so much potential and then it ended up being nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at
Hey,
least you can click them to like teleport to a player now.
yeah, and sometimes when you're not doing like voice chat, some people throw them down to say, "Hey, come here," because
Yeah,
it
as
pings
a
the map
ping.
now,
Yeah.
and you kind of see it in the midst of all the special effects on the screen.
Yeah, as opposed to, people just, ooh, can I drop my banner before Leoric? It's like, if you were playing in the original D2 beta, don't tell me that every time that you zoned into, Leoric's chamber, that you tried to drop a banner before the cutscene, or that you did not try to drop a banner. I mean, come on. I was like, can I get it?
Thinking of this is like segueing away from what we're supposed to be doing, but thinking of Jay Wilson and kind of the change of the game over time. Do you remember when they implemented the ability to skip all cutscenes? Like before, you actually had to watch, or actually, I guess you had to hit the spacebar to get through all the cutscenes in the
Yep.
past. And then they just automated that for you. It
Hmm.
was like a
And
heralded change to the game.
yeah, and here I thought you were gonna go and talk about like one of the points in development where one of the early concepts for the banner would actually like go through and you'd have different cosmetic aspects to the banner. Like you would actually get like little skulls added onto it for like every 1,000 like elites that you killed, and that there would be like that you had like this giant skull pile at the bottom base of it because you beat Inferno on hardcore and all other types of stuff.
I was waiting for you to tackle that because I knew you would. I think
There we go.
I think that would be cool because one of the things that I look at from time to time, Diablo Progress is able to track your lifetime kills and your elite kills, and it actually will judge that against other people's as well. So you can actually determine if you have the most monster kills, like in the Americas, in the entire world, etc.
Hmm.
And that's really the only place that it's visible for comparison, because otherwise you just know what you've done and you see like your distribution of elite kills among your different characters on the armory page, but you can't necessarily very easily find out like, hey, how many kills does Nineball have without something like that visual that you're mentioning. Like if I were to just see your banner and you've got this mountain of skulls, like one keeps rolling off the top because it's so high, I'm like, oh yeah, he's killed some dudes.
Yeah, yeah.
But we can dream. Maybe that. Hey, D4,
D4, man, that's where it's at.
it's coming in D4. All right, let's move on to the next email. It's coming in from our good friend Dead Advocate. And he writes in to say, hey guys, so far my season has been awesome. Shout out to Nineball, Lala, and of course the king of badassery, Leviathan. Wow, what a lovely title. Also found the new love for support and how important they are, even though I despise the playstyle. And also Perdition sucks. And he's playing a witch doctor, and I know a lot of
Hmm.
witch doctors that dislike Perdition. On a side note, I will not be able to play for some extended time because both my computer and Xbox was hit by a massive surge that fired most of my electronics. Even my APC could not save them. Sad face. So I will be gone for a little while, but I'm not sure on the ETA. I'll hopefully dig through my box of goodies and build a makeshift PC. And this was also a few weeks ago too, so I have talked to him more recently, and I think he said he had ordered some stuff to make a new computer, but he was actually borrowing a friend's laptop to try out Overwatch for the first time.
Hmm. Hope you liked it.
That's yeah, it's a rough setup though. Unfortunate to get all that stuff fried out.
That it is. All right. Next, what we have going on here, we've got. Sorry. Where did I put that one? Here we go. This email comes in from Berserker. Howdy. I wanted to check in and give you an update on my Season 6 start and toss out a game feature I'd like to start a discussion on. Season 6 has been pretty good to me so far. Went with a Barb as my first character, doing Raycore 6, Raycore 6-4 build right now, just under Paragon 500. Should be Greater Rift 65 by the time you read this. Already done a 64. And given how long ago he sent us this email, I'm pretty sure he probably has done even better than that. Um, the opening weekend was good to me, especially got my first two Hadrix gifts and doing a T4 to unlock the Greater of 20. I got the elusive Cow Rift, and since that wasn't good enough, I had a Goblin pack immediately outside of the special Jar of Souls-esque event in the Rift itself. After finishing the Rift, headed back to town to upgrade my rare mighty two-handed weapon in a cube, and got an IK Boulder Breaker first try, and I was around Paragon 40.
Wow.
RNG has been nice, but it's also been trolling me hard. The third boulder breaker I get on the season is my item of the week, and I'm around Paragon 150, 175 or so, so that's a good start. The bad part is that I'm Paragon 475 now, and I still have yet to find a gift to throw a socket into the thing. RNG giveth and RNG taketh away. As far as the game feature goes, I don't know if this has come up in discussion anywhere before, but I'd like to see an enhancement on the personal records section of the profile. Right now, it shows the highest grade or rift in the best clear time that a class has achieved in a season. If you have if you even play more than one build for a class, whether it be one character or multiple, you'll only ever see a single record. I would like to be able to see those records based on character instead of class. For example, Barb 1 can clear greater if 40, but Barb 2 can clear greater if 50, while retaining the build information to the player, where, say, Barb 1 could be a Hoda or a Barb 2 could be Charge, etc., etc. Um, I've played multiple characters of the same class in a season. I'd like to know where each of them stands compared to my other characters somewhere in game. The leaderboards would still use the overall best for the class, so one person doesn't show up multiple times. And then below, he goes through and includes the item of the week, which we'll be going through and showing later. And then he also had an update to this because we had skipped an episode when he had emailed this in, and we didn't get a chance to read his email last week because we had so many, and then we didn't have one. Well, we didn't last episode, and then we didn't have an episode last week, so it's been a while. And he just wanted to say, since then, I found three gifts within a 24-hour period over the weekend. And so his Boulder Breaker now has a gifted socket on it, and he rolled some life on hit. He's up to Paragon 600 and five of six steps through Conqueror for the stash tab. Just needs the second conquest. And he is in chat right now saying he's now up to Paragon 710 and has cleared a Greater Rift 69 on the Barb.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things actually, I think it was before season 6 started. I was in Reddit, and one thread where a guy was advertising a new, I guess, like a data gatherer site that he had put together. This one was supposed to be different from like your Diablo progress or your Diablo ladders or things like that, because it would actually be able to track which GRs were cleared by which sets. And I was asking him like, how do you determine, like, if someone's wearing, a 4-piece Raycore, 6-piece IK, how is that classified? If someone's wearing 2-piece of something else, and he was saying that it would actually be its own category. So there would be a 4-piece IK, 6-piece Raycore, there would be a 2-piece Uliana's, 6-piece Innas. Just making stuff up at this point. So you could actually individually track, made up leaderboards for just these random sets or mixing of sets. And I saw the prototype for that, and it was working decently well. He said there was a lot that he was going to change, but I actually have never revisited it since the season started. So I don't know if it got off the ground, but it sounds like there's interest for something like that across the board. So, people are building their own tools to track that stuff, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Oh yeah, because that's something I've noticed as I've been watching and playing Hearthstone like a lot more. That a lot of the top streamers will use, one of those like programs to go through and like just track information so they can see their win percentages with particular decks and knowing what cards they've drawn or played or what has been discarded.
Yeah,
Because the
exactly.
more information you have, the better judgment calls you can make a lot of the times.
And it is kind of interesting. Blizzard does have their kind of stance on these third party things, and what's gray area, what's highly disliked, and what's kind of okay. And it seems different from each game to each game, because there definitely are tools out there that can do a great job of reading like some of the, I'm not super savvy, but like the metadata of what's going on behind the scenes and things like
Hmm.
that. And so to be able to manipulate that stuff is obviously super useful, because just like we were saying when we're going through kind of that metric section, the more stuff you have to analyze, the better, smarter of a player it makes you, and therefore the especially when it's something that you're doing outside of the game in particular, like you'll just be able to better play the game when you're in it, because you've already done kind of the mental math of, what's better here, what am I looking for. Like you kind of, I guess it delves back into that general umbrella of theory crafting, right? Like
Hmm.
before you actually tackle the game what's going to be best, what you're looking for, and sometimes you do make those like sideways discoveries within the game as you test things out in real life. But when you have so many ways to like simulate things, it cuts down a lot on kind of wasted time of, all right, I need to get this item to test it. Oh, that didn't even work out, and I just spent 10 hours doing that. Whereas now you get a website that allows you to do that in a matter of minutes.
Hmm.
So
Information.
information is key.
It's useful.
I just hope that though, like the next version of Diablo allows for a bit more modding because I feel like that was kind of in the spirit of D2.
Mm-hmm.
And while D3, of course, is not D2, so it doesn't need to follow that trend, I do feel like you gain a lot, even if it's just being able to make like API tools and things like that that kind of are okayed by Blizzard. Maybe they'll never fully get behind them. They won't post them on their website and things like that, but just stuff that's useful if the tools for making those things are a little bit more accessible and easy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, on to the next email. I suppose I have one here from Chaos, and it's clan request. He says, "Sup, fella and fellow D3 players. Been working hard on S6 on EU, but I feel the need to get to grips on the US side of things, and I'm now concentrating over the pond from UK. So I'm hoping to be accepted to the clan, but understand spaces are limited. Many thanks. And P.S. I'm still working on improving solo leveling time. My record is 29 minutes for 1 to 70. Watch this space." So he's going after his own little personal goal of how fast can he get from 1 to 70. And I don't think that he sent in a request to the clan, but we are definitely gaining spots again as we kind of enter the mid-season lull, the
Mm-hmm.
blues. So there will be spots if people just, we're not even working off a waiting list anymore. It's just whatever requests come into the actual interface within the game. Like we do say, though, it's nice to send in a little email to introduce yourself or to kind of ask for that spot, and you get a little bit of preference. So
Definitely.
there it is.
Yeah. Moving on. Our next one comes in Tactrin. Tactagrin. Tagtagrin. There we go. I'll get that right one day. He says, "Hi guys, I wanted to know your thoughts on the development cycle of Diablo. It's generally multiple years between each game, which is kind of a bummer. The patches have been a good substitute, but I find it's generally a small power creep each time, except recently with the new areas, new sets, and Kanai's Cube. Correct me if I missed something more. There is so much awesome lore that I think that no one knows or pays attention to because there's no reason when pushing rifts is really the end game for a lot of people. I would love to see the development mentality of Warcraft and Diablo. We get the game, their usual awesome patch every 3 months or so, and within a year or two, we get a new game expansion with new lore and story. It would be great if there was a lore reason to do things like bounties, and even a lore reason to push greater rifts. I realize with no in-game cash shop to fund this and so many other new IPs to develop, this extra work might not seem worth it, but for a person like myself who's been playing since 1997, I would love to have an extra level of engagement with the game. A slightly different experience in PC dialogue or something with the same ending would be awesome for classes as well. I can go on, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this. Love the show, love the community, and thanks. And that is something that I think a lot of us would definitely like, especially if we saw something along the lines of World of Warcraft where we're getting regular new expansions. Uh, we 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 just don't know. We don't know what their future plans are for Diablo 3. We did see some like item models and some cosmetic items at BlizzCon that are still not in the game, so that's stuff to come in the future. We don't know how much they want to continue to support it. Like if there is not going to be an expansion number two, and we are waiting for Diablo 4, are we going to see any more massive patches like 2.4? Are they going to be more closer to 2.42? Um, we just don't know. We just don't know. But myself being a lore guy, I would love to see them to continue to build upon the lore and the story in the game, even if it's another Grey Hollow Island where we see like some lore that has absolutely nothing to do with the eternal conflict or the main storyline of the game. If they add in more like little things like that, or go back in and add some expand upon the followers' storylines and kind of tie that up with their particular little stories that we got a glimpse of in Reaper that haven't been touched on since. So those are some things that I would like to see.
Right. Well, and one of the things that we did mention along the way on, D4 potential talks was if they do go to a brand new game, they can also go to a brand new format of delivering updates to that game. because the same way that we were saying that if they tried to sell us cosmetics as microtransactions, it might not come off great because of the specter of the AH and the fact that we've gotten cosmetics for free previously.
Hmm.
So it'd be a tougher sale or a tougher sell. But if they were to hit it from the platform of this is a brand new game, brand new, day, brand new idea of how we're trying to do things. You can also potentially tie in, well, we're going to get away from maybe doing the whole box thing for Diablo. And instead, every few months or something, we give you another chapter into this game, another kind of the same way that PoE is developing right now, if you think
Hmm.
about it.
Yeah. Uh, would you would you allow me a tinfoil hat moment?
Uh oh.
What if all the new cosmetic items that were added in this patch was to gauge the level of interest and the willingness that there will, or the links that there are, the links that people are, they want to gauge the links that people are willing to go to get these cosmetic items for a future update that will add in a cosmetic shop.
Hmm. I mean, maybe that's pretty tinfoil hatty.
Well, let's go even more tinfoil hatty for Diablo 4.
Oh, well then, you just changed the whole game, literally. Um,
Wah
may
wah.
I don't doubt that they consider things like that though. Like I'm sure some things are testing grounds. Like remember when Wyatt was saying we put in that conquest for the no set clear of a GR to kind of test what people could make for builds before we introduced the no set set.
Yeah,
So they have a history, even if that's just a one case, and there are probably other cases we haven't thought of or that haven't been pointed out to us, where they've done kind of like a preview to a coming feature before we knew it was going to be a feature. So maybe if they see how many people are, I mean, if anything, looking at the kind of ridiculous. I personally think it's ridiculous, but like the ridiculous fervor and upheaval for this pennant that's in the game right now
yep,
that no one has found, and people are like, it's got to
not
be
yet.
bugged. Like, I want to know. I mean, people are interested, right? There's like a hot commodity in this pennant, so I think they're getting some viable feedback based on this like craziness. Maybe whoa. Adding to your tinfoil hat, maybe that's why this pennant is so hard to find. What if it's not even in the game and they're just trying to see like the lengths of people will farm for something?
There you go. Now you're with it. Now you're on my level, man. Together, we're gonna bust this conspiracy wide open.
Oh snap!
Uh huh.
Oh god. So you have some points there. I think I'm becoming more and more of the Illuminati on your side.
Uh,
All right, should we move forward? We should move
let's
forward.
continue on. Let's keep going.
All right. Next email is coming in from SOC. It says, Sup, fellas, SOC here. I finished my Season 6 journey within like the first week, maybe a little bit more than a week after it launched, of fairly casual playing. I don't really like seasons at all. I hate starting over and going from a high power level back down to a weaker one, especially considering that I've already played about every build such set that there is, so it's not like I'm experiencing anything new. I just have to grind through the most boring parts of the game over again. 1 through 70, and then the time it takes before you get your build such set going and pushing GRs. I don't like it at all, so I only play seasons to get the new cosmetic stuff, and then back to non-season for me. But now that we have to do even more to get stash tabs, it's that much more annoying and bothersome because you actually do have to just about finish a whole character with a full set that can actually do conquests. Just how many sets can possibly solo GR 75 or even 3 jumps to 65, not to mention things like Cursed Chest Conquest or finish a T10 Rift in 2 minutes with the supporting legendaries and everything. So I decided to just do a UEDH because I've always loved UE since it came out, and it seemed to be the quickest and least effort build to finish a season journey, so I could hurry up and go back to having fun in non-seasonal. Thankfully, I didn't even have to do a solo GR75, since I was able to do the 3 gems to 65, T10 in 2 minutes, and Cursed Chest Conquest with help from the clan who were looking to do the same. This saved me a lot of time and effort, and it made the season easier on me. I went ahead and completed Guardian thanks to their help, so I got that awesome new portrait with the blood shards pouring out the bottom. Are there blood shards? I have to look at that again.
I don't think they're blood shards, but I could definitely see it because it's got like the little circles on it that change color corresponding to the rank of the portrait.
Oh, okay, okay. I really hope Blizzard keeps this current level of ease with the season journey, as it's much more relaxing and fun to complete it very quickly with little effort for players like me who don't enjoy seasons. I think this is the third time you said this. Don't enjoy seasons at all. I think they should really consider balancing all sets around whatever solo GR level they settle on for the season journey. So, for example, since S6 was about solo GR 75, all sets should be balanced to be able to do the solo 75 with very minimal to no fishing required. My favorite set in the game, Rollins for Crusader, has to struggle very hard with GR 75, so it really makes me hate seasons that much more because I know if I decided to try to do my Roland build for S6 dash tab, I would have had to put forth so much effort and time on something that I really don't enjoy doing to attain. So here's to hoping they keep with this formula so that players with each season can think, I feel like trying this set for that class this season, rather than I'm limited to whatever is the best this patch for the season journey, which feels really bad in my opinion. Of course, the leaderboard competing players are still going to play whatever's best, but for those of us who just want the stash tab / journey completed, it would make the game that much better. Shout out to Shepard and Crimson Reach and the clan for helping me clear some conquests so that I can actually start to enjoy D3 again on non-season. Keep with the awesome podcast as you always make me inspired and excited to play more D3. Do you think SOC likes seasons?
I'm gonna say no.
Holy shit. I get it. I get
Uh-huh.
it. And he's been one of the like stalwart progenitors. I don't even know if that's the right word. He's just always been on the pedestal of seasons are so bad, seasons are so bad. And I can understand people that dislike it because it disrupts their non-seasonal play because there's that added incentive of the stash tab. But it's really not that bad. Like we just spent how much, like 15 minutes at the beginning of this episode talking about the fact that we all pretty much finished the season journey relatively quickly this season. It's not that bad. Um, and I don't think that the level of, and again, this is kind of the idea of like where do they want this to fall, right? Like how many people do they want to get the stash tab? Is having it tucked within season and then tucked within the Conqueror tier on purpose, which we kind of know it is, to hide it from, or not hide it, but to keep it from being fully disseminated to every single player. If everyone could get it, they wouldn't be able to give 10 stash tabs to every player eventually. Um, so I think it has to be a bit preventative. Like there's no better way for them to do it based on kind of the infrastructure that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand
Yep.
the frustration, but like you have to understand also where the decision is coming from.
Yeah, and I would have to also ask the question, would you be okay with my idea from earlier in the episode where they left the seasonal requirement for the stash tab the same, but then made Guardian harder?
Mm,
As
yeah,
someone
because
that
then I
does, as someone that doesn't, SOC, as someone that doesn't like seasons at all, how would that change affect you?
potentially not at all for someone like him, right? Because if he just
Yeah, because he's
stops after
doing it.
getting the,
Yeah. Well, hey, only a couple more seasons, and then you max all of your 10 stash tabs and never have to do it again.
that's true too. Yeah, you never have to care about seasons until they add some new incentive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as always, of course, thank you for all feedback.
Yep, of course, of course. Yeah, SOC does not like seasons. Remember that.
Duly noted.
Yep. Uh, our next email comes in from Crispy. Hi guys, Crispy here. Season 6 has been great. Just prior to the season, I stagged one of the last clan spots. For the first time, I got to binge play on the season opening to get to 70 with clanmates Fouch and Jimicus. This week, for the first time, I made Guardian. My final hurdle was clearing the Greater Rift 75 on my soft core Firebird Archon Wizard, and I didn't think I was going to pull it off. My death timer had been up to 30 seconds since about midway through the rift, and I was finally managed to make it to the Rift Guardian. There was only about a minute 30 remaining, which seemed like too little time. Sure enough, with about 1 minute left while I was in Archon mode, the Rift Guardian killed me. It was the Rift Guardian that shoots poison. I can't recall the name. Fortuitously, however, just prior to dying, I had teleported away and revealed on the minimap the ultimate boon an Archon Wizard needs. A channeling pylon. After resing, I grabbed the pylon, popped Archon, and went back to work. I fought him near pillars so that way I could line of sight the poison missiles, and when Archon ended, I was able to pop a second Archon immediately. The double Archon stacks made quick work of the Rift Guardian, and I finished with 11 seconds to spare. It was definitely the highlight of my season. Anyway, the show has been great this season. Keep up the good work, and hope to see you in game.
Nice.
Yeah, now that is one of those ones where it's like you're going through and you're running away for like crazy to try and live, and then you come across a pylon. That's like that's magic gold right there.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, there is kind of that idea too, where sometimes you're running to live, and potentially the best thing you can do to live is to actually fight. You know,
Hmm.
obviously in that case, like the pylon is going to help a ton. But if I guess, and also there's like intricacies within builds because like being outside of Archon, for instance, is a very fragile state of being for wizards. So
Hmm.
maybe not in that case, but there are those instances. I remember back when Inferno was really hard for Barbs, you actually wanted like a lot of like life on hit, or I guess it was life percent at that point. Or sorry, life steal.
Hmm.
Is that, yeah, that was it.
Yep.
And like you had a shield and everything like that. And like sometimes when you weren't attacking things, you're actually at your most fragile because you weren't getting all your life return mechanics working for you.
Hmm.
So it was actually better to just like stay in battle, hope for some revenge procs, hope for some that life steal percentage coming back for you. It's always an interesting thing when to fight, when not to fight.
Hmm. That it is.
All right, and I have an email here from one of our favorite names, 69.
Still cracking us up months
Oh,
later.
I love it. I love it. His email is titled "Tell me your worst hardcore nightmare and a question concerning Nephilim and humans." So, first, could you guys try describing the worst possible combination of affixes on an elite slash champion pack and what kind of monster that you would consider the ultimate worst nightmare for you? The one elite that you only need to look at once to make you say nope, and then proceed to vault 99 times backwards and out of the rift and exit the game. I
Hmm.
know that they nerfed how certain affixes don't appear together or something like that, but feel free to disregard that rule if it makes answering this question easier. So I guess we'll stop here first and answer this.
Hmm. Would you like to take first crack at that one?
Sure. For me, I think it's going to come from an Act 5 mob because they already have like additional special powers that are
Hmm.
awful. So probably I think they're the Exarchs are the ones that throw the thunder that do like a
Yes.
little AoE area. So I say that's already bad on its own because it's kind of like its own thunder affix.
Yep.
But then if you remove all the rules so you can just get like the nastiest of fixes, I think anything that stops your movement is just god awful because now you're limited. And also this answer will change depending on whether you're playing a build that has one of those ultimate forms where you have CC immunity and 100% uptime. But say we don't have any CC immunity, right? Then
Hmm.
like a vortex waller uh champ pack with Arcane and Frozen would probably be like the worst, and like maybe Jailer for one of those as well, because
Yeah.
if you can't reliably get out of any of those things that stop you, especially if you're getting Vortex, like anything that changes your position and you can't control it is the
Hmm.
worst.
Yeah. I have to go with probably still, for me, the executioners or the Armadons. From Act 5 and Act 4, the mobs that stun you on their attack.
Mm,
Even though a lot of classes don't really care because you're like permanent vengeance or something else that prevents you from being CC'd, so that doesn't affect as much anymore. But if we wanted to say like you actually still got hit by these crowd control effects, yeah, a frozen vortex waller arcane like hammer lord would be like one of the worst.
ugh, yeah,
Yeah. Or I mean, if we're throwing out all rules, let's just say a uh, vortex, arcane, horde, invincible minions.
yeah. I was gonna say bring back some of
But,
those old. Hey, we're
uh,
talking about classic,
yeah.
J Wilson version of the game.
Or how about no? And literally, let's double it. How about a pack that is just it's double arcane and double jailer, so it casts
Oh,
both twice as often.
yep. I mean, do you
Yeah.
remember back in the day though, there were like no cooldown timers for elites, so they could actually just spam cast like Frozen. Remember, Frozen used to be
Oh,
like everywhere.
oh yeah. Let's make this even better. Cause
Oh
do
God.
you remember back in the day when elites had enrage timers?
Yes, enrage timers.
Uh,
Perfect.
for for those that might have not played Diablo when it was a work in progress, let's just say, you had a limited amount of time of which to kill elites before they actually got a massive. It wasn't even just like a damage buff. They would just kill you by being on the screen. It was like an aura attack that would drain your life if they're visible to you. So
Yep.
it was just like it's on the screen, not attacking you, and all of a sudden you're dead in 2 seconds because the enrage timer is ticking down. It was
And
not just bosses. This is elites.
and don't forget also, like you could actually be making progress against them, and if you died, they refilled their health to full. You have to go back and fight the whole thing again. And this is at a time in the game where you're like, I need anything to help me survive. So like you were trading DPS for survivability skills. So fights were taking longer. So it was this whole like crazy disconnect of
Hmm.
like I want to live, but if I take too long, I can't live. But if I try and go DPS, I'm gonna die. So what do I even do?
What do you even do?
You know what
And
you do? You farm pots.
yeah, you farm pots.
They don't hit back.
Nope. You go back. You put on a ton of gold find gear. You farm pots in what is it? The Royal Crypts. So that way you just get gold, and then you buy your items in the auction house. Because they nerfed the other pots that actually dropped items to not drop items anymore, so you can't farm those. So you just have to go and farm gold now.
And then eventually pots didn't drop anything.
Hmm.
And then they were like, okay, we got past that point where everyone was just doing that. So now pots will drop gold again.
Yep.
Uh, work in progress indeed.
Yeah. Dang. How far the game has come.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that trip down memory lane, 69 ball. And here's a lore question, which I will throw your direction.
Hmm.
One more lore question. If a Nephilim is simply the offspring of a demon and angel, does this mean that regular humans can also be called Nephilim as well? Or if humans evolved, or rather devolved, so much over the centuries that humans and Nephilim are pretty much two different things, like apes and humans from an evolutionary point of view?
For that one, basically, yes, humans are Nephilim. The difference is just uh, after the kind of like there was a civil war between the angels and demons that had come to sanctuary over how their offspring, the Nephilim, should be treated or used. Um, Anarius won, and he either banished or killed everybody else besides himself in the Nephilim. And he then took the World Stone and modified it so that way it would actually dampen the powers of the Nephilim. And it had a greater and greater effect every next generation of Nephilim. So they were born weaker and weaker and weaker until we have just like the humans that we have nowadays. But inside of all of them is the spark of the Nephilim. And now that the World Stone has been destroyed, it just takes something to ignite that spark to actually, bring about their full power and potential to truly embrace that title of being a Nephilim. But it's within everyone in Sanctuary, and that's why Malthael was intent on killing every single human in Sanctuary because they all possess that ability to be a threat to both heaven and the balance and the order of everything.
Mm, good answer.
Why, thank you. I made all of that up.
There's no backing evidence for any of that.
None whatsoever.
Love it. That is something actually, now that the summertime is here, I'll probably spend a little bit more of it outside. I do want to dive into some of my books. I need to definitely get on the lore train. Although I
I
feel like I say that every year.
I highly recommend it. Highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Oh well, I'll make a concerted effort this time.
Yep. Our next email here comes in from JHB. Hey guys, I am stoked as I just got to see your show live for the first time. I live in Australia and have followed the show pretty much from day one via the podcast. With the time difference, I haven't been able to get on Twitch to see the live show until today. I'm on holidays, and that's when I saw a tweet that the show was on, so I jumped into Twitch. So I've played D3 from vanilla and generally play each season finishing up at around Paragon 700. This season, I decided to go ham. I tested my monk in the PTR and went into the season with a mapped out plan of build and gear, and I just dinged Paragon 1000 and wanted to add my spin on the Paragon debate. But first, wanted to just say, wouldn't it be cool if when you hit Paragon 666, there was an added in-game feature that puts your character into Hell Berserk mode, and you gain the effect of all pylons for their standard duration of time? Just like all the Ubers had appeared, and the screen changes to look as when your health is almost fully depleted. Obviously, it would have limitations, would not be able to activate in a Greater Rift, etc. That would actually be kind of like cool. You're just like walking around, you ding Paragon 666, you gain all the pylon buffs, and then all the Ubers appear, and so that way it's just like, here, go, wipe them all out, and then here's a free Hellfire token.
That
Yeah,
would be pretty cool.
yeah. But on the Paragon piece itself, I think there needs to be a solution to the uncapped main stat. Since hitting Paragon 1000, my Sunwuko monk one-shots anything in tier 10, irregardless of what passives I use. I can throw on any crappy gear and still have more or less the same effect. Even with no gems, I still one-shot anything. It's cool at first, but after a while, it takes away the any enjoyable gameplay at Torment 10. I can't imagine what this must be like for players that are now on the verge of Paragon 2000 this season, or people that are over Paragon 3500 non-season. It would be good to see diminishing returns on main stat from Paragon. Maybe like 0 through 800, main stat is 5 points, 800 through 1000 is 4, 1000 is 3, and yada yada yada. Until the point that Paragon is only worth one additional stat per point. Another suggestion would just put a high cap on main stat. Maybe the cap would hit at about Paragon 1500 and reintroduce Magic Find as uncapped. It would mean that the players that grind all season would still need to push for the first few weeks to hit the cap, with it focus on refining gear for even to push even more on the leaderboard. Anyways, just wanted to share my thoughts. Thanks again for the great show.
The return of Magic Find. I
Yep.
love that. I love that we're touching on all of the classic like systems and things, like whether on purpose or by accident. It's great.
hmm
Um, so I do like the idea. Obviously, we were kind of talking about it earlier. Something needs to change for Paragon. The idea of capping it, I think, is one that has been popularly given, but one that seems to be disliked by the developers, the ones with the ability to change it to something like that. I
hmm
think there was actually a Quinn interview from BlizzCon last year where he mentioned something like that, and they had mentioned not. I don't think they dove into it at that time about why they disliked it, but I can recall in the past that maybe there's something about just having there always be like something to get, and so having a cap feels bad because XYZ. But although I guess if you were to give something else as an incentive to continue on, like a Magic Find, that could be interesting. But then you run into the problem of like why people felt the Magic Find thing was bad in the first place. Like it was almost, you needed to get your
hmm
Paragon 100 capped out before you felt like you were actually gaining all the rewards, and that was admittedly under a bad drop system.
Yeah, and it wasn't only that, but it was counterintuitive because you wanted to grind your character to get Paragon 100 so that way you capped your 300% magic find. But then you felt any gameplay you did at Paragon 100 was a waste because you weren't gaining experience.
Hmm.
That you could be playing another character instead and gaining Paragon levels on them, but then you also felt as if it was a waste because you didn't have max magic find. So you had to wear magic find gear on them. It was like, oh, it's crazy system.
Exactly.
What do we think
Exactly.
of next?
I think the T10 thing is kind of it's an issue, but it's a non-issue because I don't think anyone cares about T10 anymore. Like I think people just do it because they have to get their Great Rift keys. But what I've actually seen people do at this point now is they'll have one person actually do the regular Rift in a four-player game, and then the other three people will actually go and do the bounties. And that way you're getting both bounties done and you're getting Greater Rift keys farmed. So whenever the person who's doing the rifts is about to, or actually does kill the rift guardian, they'll stay at that spot and they'll tell everyone, hey, rift guardian's dead. Everyone who's doing their bounties just TPs back home, goes to that player's flag, gets the key real quick, and then goes back to finish the bounties up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just finding the best usage of time. Because yeah, it is. I fully get it. Like there'll be times I forget to put like my Hellfire amulet that I'm switching from character to character on, and I'll go through and it'll feel a little slower, but like it's not like I'm in trouble of dying or anything. Like I'm still killing things pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we did get to that point. What was it, about a year ago maybe, where we're like, hey, T6 is really easy. Will we get higher difficulties? I just don't foresee them wanting to further split people among more difficulties.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
there's that idea, right? Like of I think you've talked about this in the past, where you say, well, shrink it all, right? Like make there to be a T6, and that's like hard or whatever, and then there's a T10 because no one does like T2 to T3 to T4 whatever. But then of course we're forgetting about like the new player experience, and so how do you
mm.
balance all that?
Yeah, and I guess that is one thing that I do see them eventually going and adding in higher torment levels, just so that way they increase. Now with people going through and pushing into the 100s solo, whether once some of the bug fixes are finished, we'll see how that goes through if there's a power creep in the next patch or what have you. But it is you know a huge differentiation between people that are going and even running like greater if 80s or greater if 90s versus Torment 10 being greater if 45. We're talking about a couple magnitudes difference in the capabilities and health of these mobs and the damage that they deal. That if we get like a Torment 12 or 15 or something along those lines to kind of catch it up, make something around like greater if 65, for your next torment cap, just so that way people can go through run that for faster acquisition of like death's breaths and other things.
I mean, I get it, but I don't think you. I don't know that it's necessary though. I don't feel like you need something hard across every mode that you play. Like I feel like there can be a really easy
Well,
mode thing in the game.
it's not so much that it's supposed to be hard, but it's something that it's the levels of magnitude of difference between what it is that you do. So it's like being able that I can go through and do Torment 10 with my eyes closed, even if someone that's going and like that's going and clearing like these Greater Rift 80s, if you made a Torment level that's like Greater Rift 65, they're still going to be running through that with no issues whatsoever, like with their eyes closed, not really caring about it. But now you've increased the difficulty, you've increased the experience gain that's within it, and you can also up like the Death's Breaths and other things like that. So that way it doesn't feel as penalizing having to go back and farm Death's Breaths or get greater rift keys once you're done, going from your high greater rifts back to Torment 10 to farm to do more greater rifts.
But I mean, it's not a penalty though because it's the only way to get those things. Like if there was a secondary way to get them and it was more rewarding, then yeah, going being forced to go back into Torment 10 would feel really bad. But because Death Breaths are only gained through that adventure mode and like bounties and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the only delivery method for them, then what difference does it make if you're doing GR65 equivalent torment levels in 3 minutes versus T10 in like 30 seconds or something? Like you're still just doing it for the same purpose, and you're still going to want to run through it as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see what the devs think about that.
Indeed. I don't know. This is weird for me though because I fully advocated for T10 back in the day. Like I thought we did need
Mm-hmm.
it, but I don't know, for whatever reason this time it feels like it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Our next one, this one comes in from a longtime listener, Juno Reactor, and he wanted to go through and basically taunt and say that Juno Reactor is coming to Canada, but not the U.S. And that does make me incredibly jelly because I've never seen them in concert, and I really want to see them in concert. One of my favorite groups ever. Um, Highly recommend it. If you never listen to Juno Reactor, just do a YouTube search. And one of the ones that he actually wanted to go and talk about was one of their songs, "Perfect Crime" from Gods and Monsters, and how the lyrics in the song really makes him think, kind of reminds him of Tyrael, because it's talking about like this perfect crime and paying the ultimate price. About how it kind of like reminds him of like Tyrael stealing the Black Soul Stone from the angels, as well as like giving up his immortality to become mortal, to basically live in paradise, as it were. But yeah, and he says, I will see you guys at BlizzCon because we ran into him last year at BlizzCon, and definitely look forward to seeing you again this year.
Yeah, yeah. It should be awesome. We actually skipped one here. I'll go to Togaze Nut, as someone mistakenly called them Tough Nuts. We're running
Hmm.
through some riffs, and I really like that, so I'm just going to call them Tough Nuts now. Sup, fellas? I wanted to let you guys know how my season was going and give you thoughts on a few current issues. As I'm writing, it's 4 weeks into the season. It's been a rough one for me from the start. To date, I've lost my starting monk, I can't recall what two, and then 4 wizards. That's more deaths than the last 2 seasons combined, so it's been a frustrating season thus far. I think it's been hard on me because of two things: Firebirds being the top set and using Archon for the first time without and not ever knowing the nuances of finally playing a wizard with CC immunity. You addressed the fire bug last episode, and I have been among those who lament the dev's decision. I'm not going to explain the many ways to utilize it, but it requires you to play in a very specific way to gain the 50 stacks and utilize the double applied multiplier, ramp up to the dot, but avoid applying the permanent dot. I've tried it and I've seen the immense DPS and I don't like it. To play for gain is, in my opinion, playing an exploit. It is not utilizing the set within the parameters given. There is no accidental way to do it either, so the top of the leaderboards are going to be filled with this bug, and it almost makes it worse than bots last season. So that leads me to my dilemma. Archon is clearly the way to play, and there are three distinct versions: the Firebirds, Tal Rasha, which is maybe the true top build with extremely perfected gear, and Veers. Veers is the playstyle that I find to be the most fun, so it's the one I'll push with, but since this is my first time playing any form of Archon regularly, I wasn't aware of little things that come with CC immunity, and I'm sure other classes are aware of it. Like a Scandiel's powerful wave attack that hits many times when it can't knock you back. One of my deaths was due to that before I realized how something could proc UA, unstable anomaly, and then immediately break through it to kill my character. Two were due to playing FB Archon, both times playing with a support, and that goes to show just how squishy that build is. My least
Hmm.
favorite death was a game crash. So this season has been all about getting back gear and gems rather than making ancients and augmenting them, and I'm still at a respectable paragon of 830, and I enjoy the game. I'd like to finish yet again this long email with a shout out to you guys. As I mentioned to Leviathan earlier this week, you guys put out a quality podcast that informs and entertains. I listened to your last episode with my wife during our daily workout, and she has no knowledge of anything Diablo related. She doesn't play it, nor does she have any interest in it, but she found your podcast engaging and entertaining. So keep doing what you're doing, and you'll continue to be my go-to Diablo podcast.
Aw.
Since sincerely, the name nobody wants to pronounce.
It's not just me.
There it is.
Oh, but
Tough nuts.
yeah, I actually I really enjoy hearing that because this isn't the first time that we've heard about someone being introduced to the podcast having like no baseline information for Diablo 3 whatsoever, but at least finding it entertaining or interesting. Maybe some
Actually,
dick jokes.
that's probably it. Like I
Yeah,
think that gets everyone a little
that
bit.
that just transcends levels.
My one of my coworkers actually listens to our show with her boyfriend. They both play
Uh-huh.
WoW, so they have like a Blizzard connection, but they actually don't play Diablo. And
Yeah.
they said their favorite part of the show is when you tell a story, but like the punchline is so terrible that like you just laugh because they don't even understand why you told the story. That's their favorite part of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is true. That is true. What about the times I start a story and don't even know where I'm going with it?
I'm sure they love that too. They probably love
Hmm.
that even most.
I know, right?
Did it just happen?
I guess. Maybe.
Oh
What
my
we're talking about
goodness.
anyways? I don't know.
I, who knows?
What a dick.
Well then,
Well, since I did two in a row, you want to take two in a row?
sure, why not? I have another one coming in from Cam. He says, "Sup, fellas? My name is Cam. Battle tag is Rogowski8, and I'm a longtime Diablo fan. I pretty much grew up watching my older brother play Diablo 1 till I was old enough to play, and then I spent the rest of my childhood slogging my way through D1 and D2. I got to play D3 beta and was there from day one vanilla. However, shortly after the ROS release, I had to move out of my home and move rurally for university. As a result, I didn't have a home Wi Fi connection for almost 2 years, which unfortunately meant no Diablo. But since getting the internet back, I've made my way into the game, and I can't believe how much it has changed and how incredible it was. Season 6 was my first official season, and I started out with a softcore witch doctor and did a GR 73. However, after listening to you guys, I decidedly finally made the change to hardcore. I've
Yes.
I'd never played hardcore since D2, and it's been crazy adjusting. I lost two wizards close to level 70, and I decided to go with a tankier monk build, and I finally got there. So now I'm grinding out Paragon levels, and I've reached 153, and I'm trying to finish getting my Uliana's build. It has taken me so much longer playing hardcore, mainly because I'm so careful and I have nobody to play with. I recently applied for the Blizz Pro clan, and was absolutely stoked to find that Leviathan accepted me, so now I'm looking forward to playing with other hardcore Blizz Pro guys. I'm from Australia, so the time zones may make it difficult, but I hope to see you guys in game sometime. I usually play at least 2 to 3 hours a day, so hopefully I'll see you. And anyways, sorry for the big rant. I always enjoy hearing other fan stories, so I thought I would share and send in my own. Thanks again for the ad, and keep up the great work on the podcast, Cam.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Cam. Appreciate that. Welcome to the clan.
Yeah. Our next email comes in from Chandler. As he's about to say in the email, when we went through and we showed off the Tyrael tattoo, he is the bearer of it. And so I'm the listener whose Tyrael tattoo you showed off on last episode. I've listened for quite a while now and thought it was for time for me to share some of my thoughts. The thing I latched onto last podcast was the mention of Fist of Heavens being such an iconic skill, but with no set to show it off. This got me thinking of yet another iconic skill from Diablo 2, Frozen Orb, and yet both skills have no set that directly uses them as a focal point, and Frozen Orb hasn't been truly viable since it was first implemented and they nerfed it. For those that don't remember, when Frozen Orb was first added into Reaper of Souls, it had the ability to hit enemies multiple times. And
Yes.
yeah, and there was like this special like distance that you had to go because it would go through and hit them and might catch them again, and then it reached its maximum distance and explode and hit them a third time. So that made it viable, back in the day. And then they changed it and just never went back. Even though if I'm pretty sure if they added that back in, it still wouldn't matter. Um, Another thing I've been puzzled on for quite some time was the fact that as a wizard, being elemental as the fantasy, having a fire set and a fear set being the archon set, you think that it would be arcane, yet there's no dedicated cold or lightning set that exists. In fact, most of the top builds throughout the season have been fire when looking across all the classes, to my recollection. Though I do have a bad memory, maybe it's just my own bias. I have continued to follow both your and Flux podcast to stay up to date on the changes in current meta and news. However, I haven't played since the first month of last season and wasn't drawn into play for this one, and I've been playing Path of Exile and thoroughly enjoying it and biding my time for Diablo 3 to excite me again so that way I can gather my usual friends and grind out, 32 plus hours of enjoyment that first weekend of a new Diablo season. I also sent a tweet of of my original Diablo tattoo. It's old and I need to get it recolored, but hopefully you guys enjoy. If needed to be stated, Diablo has been a series that has been a large part of my life, and I'm really hoping that Blizz picks up the ball on this one with an expansion, or I'm personally hoping for Diablo 4, so I can continue to enjoy this franchise for the rest of my life.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
guess.
was trying. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
Oh, I was just trying to think of the like most popular builds, the top builds, and
Hmm.
what elements they had tied to them. And I'm thinking like Uliana's is a cold build. Um, Firebirds obviously is fire
Fire.
because you need that. Um, Crusaders have had some holy builds. We really haven't had fire builds for quite some time. Demon Hunter is fire, UE.
Hmm.
But they've had like cold versions as well too. I would say
Yeah,
fire and cold are probably like the top two.
yeah, yeah, because I know like for Marauders it's physical or cold.
Hmm.
Fan of Knives, is that?
It's a
Is,
lightning one
yeah,
actually.
that's a lightning. Yeah, the Fan of Knives builds that one's lightning.
Hmm.
Um, I know at one point actually that was something that Archon and I used to talk about a lot is how overpowered fire was compared to all the other elemental damage strictly because of Cinder Coat.
Yeah,
And that there were more items that existed because this was before they, even though they had done some set revamps for Reaper, it was nothing too major. People still weren't using them, so it was just stacking on a whole bunch of legendaries with as much bonus effects as you possibly could. And fire was it. It was the top. It was the best because it just had more items that buffed its damage than any of the other elements. But I think it's pretty even across the board. There's not really, it's not like one particular element is better than any of the others. I think that does come into play. Like right now, fire obviously is top for wizards, but that's because Firebirds only uses fire, and like some other ones where like the Fan of Knives build is lightning because the highest damage. The way that particular builds work is you sit there and you wait until you have the 30 stacks of the Fan of Knives buff, and then you use it along with like something like Sharpshooter to make sure that you are guaranteed a crit on everything, or the Shimizu build, so you're guaranteed a crit on everything with the 30 stacks with your highest DPS rune or highest damage rune that you can possibly get. And so a lot of that just comes down to what particular rune has the best effect for that build or that set, not so much the element in it.
yeah. And there was that one patch where they went through for like elemental diversity. Like you remember, actually, I guess it was across a couple patches, but demon hunters used to have like some poison skills, and they got rid of a
Hmm.
lot of those to just kind of like
And they
not
buffed
only
the
take
cold ones. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So like to not only take out some, but also to make it so that the pool was smaller, but then they could also diversify across it as well. So like each skill kind of had like here's your physical rune, here's your cold one, and of course across those like one or two is going to be the best. So I think that's kind of what Nine Ball is tying into is
Yeah.
eventually some build is going to pick out this is the best rune, and it just happens to be cold. So now you need to stack cold everywhere.
Yeah, because that even comes in, it's like Arcane Orb, was somewhat popular with Del Sears for a little bit.
Last season.
Yeah, and obviously that has been, uh, overthrown by Energy Twister. Um, so that's something that can go through and be done, but that's I guess that's kind of like the issue with how things are balanced right now. Like in Diablo 2, the issue was some skills were just crap. It's like you would never go through and run like a teeth necromancer. It came down to debates between bone spear or bone spirit until you got an obscene levels of gear, and then it was always bone spear. Um, but it was more so certain skills weren't designed to be equal with one another. And then in Diablo 3, it's not so much the skills themselves, it's the sets. And that everything you have to have a set to support the skill in order to make it viable, unless there's some sort of weird tweak that you can do, like with the Legacy of Nightmares builds. But even then, even though it doesn't have a set buffing it, it's a combination of items that particularly buff this skill into the stratosphere, so that way it can take on those higher greater rifts.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then that is kind of like one of the potential complaints from members of the community. Some people wish that things are more skill based
Hmm.
versus gear based.
Yeah, because that's going to be the one, like with gear, you're never going to be able to please everyone until you have a set for everything. And, that's, we were making jokes about having a Fist of Heavens, set. And then there's going to be the person that, goes through and says, well, where's my, like, I want a true falling sword set because Seeker of the Light isn't sufficient, you know?
Mm.
I want one that's just like Falling Sword or something along those lines.
Or my
You
smite
know,
set.
yeah, yeah. Bringing back Smited Ends. Bring back Smited Ends.
Uh,
That can actually do that with that's almost like an invoker's using like straight punish.
yeah,
That was the old Smiteadin.
there it is.
Um, but yeah, that's one of those things. Given unlimited resources, I'm sure that they would love to be able to go through and put out a set for every like iconic skill or what have you. But I guess it's just the way that it is. They have to focus their time and energy on creating new things, and it comes slowly over a couple of patches. Who's to say what they might make changes in a possible future expansion or Diablo 4?
hmm And that's another thing too. Like maybe we'll even go back to that idea of the elements doing things like they originally did for D3 before that, and it didn't make the actual game, but
Hmm.
the idea of hey, your lightning is gonna crit more, your fire will explode for a little bit of AOE, and your cold will slow, and your holy will actually heal you, and things like that. You
Hmm.
could actually build it into elements, and now you're choosing for really specific reasons.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
we have
with
an
that, okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Still have
yep.
one more. Sorry.
Yes, yes. Oh, no worries. I have an email from Brooke. Says, hey guys, I'm loving this season so far. I started this season with a Thorns Satyr, and by the first weekend of playing, I cleared 75. I got to see my name on the leaderboard for a couple of weeks at least. And for the first time ever, I had actually finished Guardian as well, with all of that completed on, on the Cuddle Core side. Thanks to whoever said that in the in game chat. I decided that this was a good time to really try hardcore, so I kept playing with my Demon Hunter. I found a beautiful Ancient Yangs and was soon cruising through 65s in about 7 minutes. But Perdition is the worst, though. I see a theme here. I was playing with
Oh,
the. Huh?
people don't like perdition.
Poor Perdition, man. No friends. I was playing with a friend who was tweaking. Was wait, really? Tweaking a healing. Oh, okay, sure. Tweaking a healing monk, and the monk died. But since 65 really wasn't a challenge, I figured that I would finish it. Perdition 2 shot me with his crash into you from the off screen move, and I'm almost back up to power, and now I have a wizard that I'm working on. Greater Rifts make me nervous as hell now that I'm traumatized from Perdition, but I'm loving it. The adrenaline is a crazy rush, and I may just do hardcore next season as well. Or I may do just hardcore next season. We'll see. Thanks for the motivation to try it. Ultimately, I would like to get 3 or 4 of the hardcore conquests since they were pretty easy on the cuddle core. I love the podcast. Thanks for the work you put into it. Um, Perdition is one in particular, especially for demon hunters. It's tough because unless you're taking smokescreen, you have to really time those volts. But
Hmm.
Mikey put me onto some game for Perdition. He actually predicts that move rather obviously, I guess is the word. So if you actually look at the animation frames that
Hmm.
Perdition goes through before he actually does the attack, and there's a moment where he's gathering white smoke underneath his feet before he will then flash and then appear on top of you. And if you hit Volt within any, there's like a pretty nice window of frames where you can actually hit Volt when you see the smoke appear, and you will have invincibility frames from Volts no matter where you just throw the Volt in a random direction and it will time out so that when he lands, you're in the middle of that Volt with invincibility, and you won't actually take any damage.
Yeah,
Definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I do remember seeing like a Reddit thread about that a while ago that showed like it broke down and showed what to look for. I guess I'm gonna have to go through and try and find that now. Maybe we can show it in the next episode since there's so much perdition love from our podcast listeners. That is like the kind of like the how-to guide to track his movements, like what it is, the frames that he uses when he goes through to do his different attacks.
Mhm. And it's the kind of thing too where like the fight or flight within you says that like you just need to run away, like get off screen. But actually,
Hmm.
if you keep him on screen, you gain more information about what he's going to do. So it's
Hmm.
kind of it makes you nervous because you're closer to his attacks, but you actually will be able to dodge better if you can see him.
Yeah, I want to say that he is also more prone to use that teleport attack if you're not within range of him.
Fully agree with that.
Hmm. All right, I think that sums up all of our emails right now.
Unless you're going to show the cosmetics.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that I am.
cool.
So if you do you want to read that one?
Yes, real quick. This one came from 69 Ball as well. I know this is like my third email, but what can I say? I've watched and enjoyed WMW since the very first episode, and I finally want to break the silence and be a bit more active. I'm proud to be a part of this community. Someone posted a couple of screenshots on Reddit on what the cosmetic items, what kind of cosmetic items are available on the Chinese servers, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I thought it would be a good idea to showcase some of these on the next episode for people that aren't able to access Chinese D3. And also, P.S. Thanks for the Bandit Shrine. I didn't get anything decent, but it did save me a couple of minutes from doing rifts to get some much needed death spreads. No problem.
Okay, I'm trying to get it to load up, but it is not wanting to work.
Uh oh.
So, okay, I'm not going to be showing the um, items here. Let me just try one more time.
Teaser. Stay
Oh, there
tuned.
we go. Got it.
Ah, nice.
Got it. But it's not wanting to swap over to the other page.
Well, for those of you who can't see it anyways, you're not
Oh,
missing
no.
anything.
Got it. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. I don't know. For the other one, it just did not want to work. But yeah, so here are some of the cosmetic items that you can get on the Chinese server. For those that are, listening to iTunes and Stitcher, um, I'm sorry. Use your imagination. It's cool.
Super cool. And
Yep.
some of these you can see that we have gotten. There's like a ridiculous cosmic wings version, but then there's like the regular cosmic wings that we have in the game. Some of them are like different, like reskins of ones that already exist as well too, just different colors.
Kind of like the Wings of Valor or Tyrael's wings. They're like kind of reskinned, or they have different particle effects, for those translucent like angel wings. Reskinned, recolored of like the dragon wings, like or I guess like the Illidan's wings. You've got the monarch butterfly. You also have like the cosmic wings, but they look more like they're instead of being like the butterfly cosmic wings, they're like a falcon's cosmic wings. And then you have another one that's like a quadruple butterfly wing that's has like that space background to it. And then you also have I guess that's like Vishnu arms.
Sure.
Yeah.
Shiva.
Shiva, yeah, that could be it. That's a lot of different things. And then we also have like the penance, pets, and portraits.
Penance pets portraits.
And
All
then
the P.
yeah, all of the P. And then we have one of the things that I like is they actually have like these purchasable portraits, and they have one for every class, and they're really cool. That Crusader one is just freaking awesome.
Is there one? Oh, those are classes. Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't realize. Yeah, that's cool. I like the wizard one too. I like the
yeah.
purple.
hmm Yeah, and there's just they even have like a little Tyrael one and such. So there are a lot of pretty cool additions that they have over there.
Oh. And if you guys are wondering what those numbers are, that's the platinum currency that they have on the Chinese server, and you can buy that with real money, and you can also get it in game. And so you're seeing the prices of some of these things.
hmm
You see, like the Teriel one is valued very highly at 9,800 platinum.
Yeah, which seems to be like the one of the that's like the highest cost.
Mm-hmm.
There's
I
like the
wonder,
9,800. There's a couple other items like some of the pennants that are 9,800, like the Malthael pennant.
I wonder what the equivalent money is on 9,800 platinum.
I don't know.
Because that would give you some idea of how much value they think a portrait frame is worth
hmm
for reasons unknown.
Yeah. And the portrait frame is like probably like the most cosmetic item because it's the one thing that is like clearly visible the entire time.
Hmm.
Won't get hidden by particle effects.
That's a great point.
Yeah. But I guess with that, we now can go through and continue on to our items of the week.
Weak, weak, weak.
And for that, our first item here is from Berserker. That's the one that he. This is the Immortal King's Boulder Breaker that he was referring to earlier. And this bad boy clocks in at 3,972 DPS 1,444 strength, 1,346 vitality, increases damage of Call of the Ancients by 50%, secondary bonuses of plus 21 maximum fury, and as always, the ignores durability loss. It does have a socket that he's re-rolled onto it, but as he said in the email, he has since re-rolled that socket into life on hit and added a Romuladnes on there for its socket.
Very nice.
Our next item comes in here from Fierce. This is the Gyre Falcon's Foot. This one comes in at 3,297 DPS, have rolled a perfect 10% weapon damage, 926 strength. He's re-rolled for 7% increased attack speed, has a level 55 gem sacrificed for an extra 275 strength on the augment, and then the secondary bonus of 8 maximum wrath and removes the resource cost of Blessed Shield with a Ramalana Ding Dongs for a socket.
That's one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. And it makes sense to add the attack speed on there too, since if you're doing the full combo, those blessed shields are free, so attack speed gains a ton of value when you're not spending resource anymore.
Mm-hmm. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, having to flip back and forth. We did have one more item that I seem to have some UI issues going on here that did not want to load. Because we have our third and final item of the week here that was sent in by Eddie. This is on console. This is the um, Fiendish Grips. This is the Unholy Essence gloves. These ones rolled 995 dexterity, 7% attack speed, 50% critical hit damage, 8% critical hit chance, a level 60 gem sacrificed for plus 300 dexterity on the augment, and the secondary effects of 180 cold resist and gold pickup range increased by 2 yards.
Pretty nice.
Very nice. Yeah, and with that, that is going to conclude our community feedback section. If you would like to go through, if you would like to go through and submit your own item or your own comments or feedback to have it listed here on the show, by all means, please feel free. Drop us a line at Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. And just to remind you, if you want that Overwatch cosmetic package, just send us an email saying what Diablo character you would like to see in Overwatch, why you'd like to see them, and what their abilities might be. And you send that in again at Westmarch at blizzpro.com. If you want to go through and get in touch with the show, you can go through and follow us. Our official show Twitter is at the WM Workshop. Of course, we live stream here every other Wednesday night at twitch.tv/BlizzPro at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. While you're here, we definitely appreciate it if you click the subscribe or follow buttons because we have a lot of other content for everything within the Blizzard gaming community. Sundays, you can check out Well Met, our Hearthstone podcast. Tuesday nights is the Heroes Power Hour. Again, every other Wednesday is Westmarch Workshop, and Thursday nights is the Payload podcast. You can also find more information, links, and other things that we talk about on the show at our main website, diablo.blizzpro.com. We're even in game. We're the BlizzPro clan. We do have some spots freeing up because we are in the mid-season lull. So by all means, come in, drop us a line at our email if you're interested, so we can go through and get you in. If you don't want to leave your current clan, we do have an in-game community. It's the Westmarch Workshop if you go through and search from there. We also are on voice chat from time to time, not as much lately, just because personal lives have been getting pretty busy. But you can also find a lot of other people in the clan that hang out and chat there at discord.blizzpro.com. You can also follow us individually. I'm at 9ballgamer on Twitter. Leviathan here is at LeviathanD3. And yeah, I think that wraps up. That's about it for now.
Yes, sir. We're in the mid-season lull.
Yeah.
What new news will we have next time?
Yeah. Is there anything else before we click out of the show that you'd want to cover? Any last comments? Tick jokes?
What a dick.
What a dick. I guess that's about it then. We've got nothing else from there. So I guess with that,
Just
everybody, you're gonna say something.
I was just gonna say dicks.
Dicks. Oh, there we go. Dicks.